special episode for you today. Second half of today's show is going to be a debate on the removal of the chair of the National Libertarian Party, Joe Bishop-Henchman. And I got a lot of feelings about this, and this is going to be a very interesting debate. I'm very honored to have our three panelists so far who have stepped up for this. Although I will say, I am holding one slot open for the next hour if someone credible steps up. This has been, my position thus far towards. I was an open supporter, endorsed Joshua Smith in the last chair's race.
Ditto.
Voted for him as a delegate, supported him actively as much as was appropriate. Was happy that it was him versus someone as qualified as Joe Bishop-Henchman. And I felt pretty confident that regardless of who won, the LP chairmanship would be in good hands. But I did have my concerns about Joe Bishop-Henchman. And I had been happy to put them aside and say, you know what? If I don't hear anything, if it's just squirrely little shit around the edges, the people talking shit about the chair, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna support him, and I have functionally. I've actually made this platform available to him and said, anytime you want to come on and do an interview, just friendly, tell us what's going on with you. You're the national chair. I would be honored to have the national chair of the Libertarian Party on to use this platform for whatever they want to broadcast.
Well,
no hard questions even.
Comment feed says breaking news: Region 8 Rep Tucker Coburn has resigned, according to Justin O'Donnell, and rumor has it that JBH may be joining him tomorrow.
Wow. So this is happening really fast, and I mean, to me, it's sort of like who sits on the throne is so unimportant when you'd rather destroy the throne. And what I love about the Libertarian Party is that we're the only political party. One of the many things I love is that we're the only ones who would say part of our goal is to put ourselves out of business. Like you don't want to be doing this forever. The goal is not power for libertarians and no, take over the world. Leave everyone alone, and then the LP is a historical club, right? That's great. We'll get there. Okay, so Region 8 rep on the LNC, and this is a very inside baseball episode. I want to say we have Ed Vallejo join us as co-host with comments. Comments like Joey is watching comments. If people have questions, I want to start the show by big caveat. We're going super political inside baseball on the LP. Now, the first half of the show, we're going to cover headlines. We got a lot of news to do. I'm going to do my intro to the subject and blah blah blah. Steve R. already Wayne. I feel like this is somewhat my fault for bringing up Tuesday. Steve. Well, no, Steve, you gave me Steve Remus, Arizona Libertarian Party activist and candidate, came co-host Sam versus the Man on Tuesday. Brought this to my attention on Tuesday, kind of spontaneous. It's just like we do a little, rap with the co-host, like, hey, what's on your mind? When we bring him on the show before they announce their comment contest. And with Steve, it's the Tuesday, it turned into a pretty significant discussion about all this. Although at the time he was still pretty obtuse. And I feel like this is happening really fast, which makes me want to be really cautious. And I'm honored that Karen Ann Harlos, LNC secretary, is joining us today on the side of the removal of our chair. Justin O'Donnell, Mary Jane, call Nick's artwork. I texted Nick last night. Hold on, we're going to get to, hey, Justin O'Donnell, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Great LP activist out of New Hampshire, veteran and prior guest on Adam versus the Man. I'm pulling up my own Twitter here because I posted this. But first, to the panel, I really want to get this out. So in case we get someone else to defend, I mean, to me, I'm kind of like, Craig, find a JVH supporter, good luck. I mean, I'm really just I'm still neutral on the issue. I mean, I go for a lot of these LP issues, I look to people like Karen Ann Harlos, who's going to be on the show today, like Angela McArdle, who's also taking the removal position, the anti-JBH. For she is the chair of the Los Angeles Libertarian Party. But and I want to give a shout out here because these two women beat out a number of others who were enthusiastic to take this role in the debate today of debating against JBH in favor of removing him, and actually three who deserve an honorable mention here. Robin Dominic, co-chair of Missouri LP, reached out, or vice chair. Anthony Welty, very respected activist. What is his actual position? I don't know. Anthony Welty visited here in Gardenia, even Seattle area, sorry, Washington State Libertarian Party activist, solid credentials. And Todd Hagopian, former Libertarian Party national chair candidate, also is Libertarian in chief on Twitter. There were half a dozen others who wanted to debate. So, like, to me, I'm looking at this like, oh shit! Like, I'm coming in reading the room like one step behind all these people who are rushing into the room. I gotta ask, do they represent the base of the Libertarian Party, or the activist, not the base, like the base membership or the voting base of the Libertarian Party, but do they represent like the activist base, the officer corps, if you will, of the Libertarian Party? I certainly have a lot of respect for all of their opinions, and I only got one person. They were credible, and says David Feit is going to be with us today. David Feit gave me his credentials as and this is really interesting. I'll wait to share what he said when he comes on at the top of the hour here. He's a New York State Committee member and outreach director for the Pragmatist Caucus. So I wish we could have barely what I would say like credible Libertarian Party credentials on this. But happy to have him. Definitely a credible Libertarian Party activist at David Feit on Twitter. And if someone else wants to step up, like right now, like in the next 15 minutes, essentially, let's make this a 2-on-2, because if not, it might not be much of a debate. Is Jim staying on this? Well, no, because I want people to show me. I want to approve them but yeah. If you want, email. Well, no, Jim is producing. Email Joey.
Justin O'Donnell's recommending Andy Craig.
I've heard that name tossed around. I didn't reach out to him directly. I did reach out to JBH himself directly, and I reached out because I have a cell phone number. I also reached out to Nicholas Sarwark directly. Didn't hear, although that was all last minute. I was shocked how fast we were able to pull this together, but it feels pretty cool to be able to be like, all right, this happened. Let's just jump on it and do it right and have this conversation and get it done. So Joey, there it is. Joey at the Freedom Line Joey will be watching your email, and we'll check in, as over the next hour, 50 minutes now, before we get to this debate. Although right now it's essentially a 2-on-1 debate, and I'm not going to try to pretend that that's a debate. We're going to make it a very and Angela and David are friends, and like they respect each other. B Horning too. The LP does a terrible job marketing. Speaking of which, we're going to come back to that topic. Hard to market when you're shadow banned. Thank you for that. It's a very good point. So if someone wants to join us, we have a spot open for anybody who wants to take the position in favor of JBH staying on his chair against the petition for him to resign. I also have Gilletta Jarvis's cell phone number for those of you who are following this and understand her role in this as chair of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, one way or another. Yeah, this is a real, why are people calling for him to resign? I mean, the crux of it is that he interfered with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire and aided in the theft of the party, and basically gave the national recognition of the state affiliate to an illegitimate organization that stole even actual material stuff, cameras, basically AV equipment, right, from a storage unit from the legitimate party. Now, I don't know what Joe's role in this. There's a smoking gun email apparently. Karen Ann Harlow's, Joey and I listened to most of her live stream video yesterday, and so I know that based on her comments about Dave Smith, she's a fan of men with well moisturized skin. So I'm trying to represent that on camera for her today. Probably failing miserably. Maybe the lighting camera can compensate somehow.
A lot of effort into it.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I'm going to read this statement again when we kick off this segment officially here at the top of the hour. But Joe Bishop-Henchman, I asked him if he wanted to join this debate. He texted me back to say, not doing public interviews on the topic. You can read this as my statement, quote, I don't do public interviews dishing about internal LP matters because they are harmful to the party's growth and public perception. With respect to the New Hampshire situation, the claims made about me are false and motivated by factional vendettas. And my intellectual inclination with what I'm facing, which is like that for my own partisan reasons, I would be tempted to say, yeah, get out of there. But I don't want that. It's bad for the party. I would rather JBH do what Josh Smith would have done. I would rather he carry out his term and then some. To do what I wanted Joshua Smith to do, and all the good things that Joe Bishop-Henchman, promised to do as a candidate for national chair as well. So I want to see him do well. I don't want to see this happen. I sympathize with his reasons, and if I'm the only one, like I'm going to be the one defending him here. All right, as devil's advocate.
Remember debate class. Just
as devil's
debate class.
I never took debate class.
You didn't?
No.
I'm shocked.
Really?
I'm shocked.
I did a little public speaking education.
Public speaking and debate were my
thing. But I never did any kind of real, I've done debate. I did mock Senate. I played a drunk Kennedy.
Oh, that's fine.
Senator Ted Kennedy. I was actually drunk. As with a gray wig.
I argued in favor.
I was shaved. I didn't have a beard, so I was like, I looked like jowly, and drunk and like red eyed and like red. I think we put rosy makeup on my cheeks. It was like, yeah, drunk Ted Kennedy. And we did, and this was for class. This was for with the infamous Professor Pitney of Claremont McKenna College. Not just that, but he's actually a respected author and national political pundit. You hear him and quoted in news stories like that. He'll get a sentence. Professor Jack Pitney of Claremont McKenna College said, "quote." Okay. Well,
we did our mock debates in middle school, and I got to argue for Ross Perot in the mock presidential debates. So.
Well, I got to do Michael Bednarik in 2004 as president of Libertarians of the Claremont Colleges, but still. No formal debate training, none of the weird learn the rules and argue. I've argued. I mean, I can do it. I played Adam Loves the Man for a week. Remember, I can do it. That was like my catch up on debate exercise.
I wouldn't watch.
Yeah, it was weird. Some people couldn't handle it. It was me. Yeah, me being my evil twin alter ego. Adam Loves the Man. Yeah, do all right. But I might be but here I'm just a skeptic. I'm not. It's not even arguing a position I'm against. But when I'm faced by this, it's a sudden rush of condemnation and, apparent evidence condemning Joe Bishop-Henchman. It's enough that there's a bit of a fishy smell to it. And I know there are people involved who are motivated by aforementioned factional vendettas against Joe Bishop-Henchman. And that's a part of it. And I don't have a vendetta against him. Like I said, I think he's, even when, my candidate lost to him, I thought he was more than good enough for me to enthusiastically support being chair of the party. And I have in good faith done everything like that and invited him to come on the show multiple times in person when we met last in person at the Wisconsin State Convention. And I feel like now if I'm I'm going to be playing his defense in this debate today, is like his defense attorney against these prosecutors coming in, with David Feit backing me up as a defense witness almost. If it turns into that, they're like, I shouldn't say anything disparaging about my client Joe Bishop-Henchman, but yeah, he hasn't come on the show and declined to do more of a statement than this, or and generally the policy like that he's articulating here, I agree with, but this isn't dishing about internal LP matters. This is a credible accusation calling for the resignation of the chair of LP National. So what's this rumor, Joey? Back to this. Where did you get this, and what is the source that you think
I got
he might be actually resigning tomorrow?
I got this from Justin O'Donnell. I saw the email on Facebook and just skimmed through it, where his name escapes me. Hold on, I'm scrolling back up.
Justin O'Donnell, JBH, was one of my closest allies when I was on the LNC with him, and I considered him a friend. When this happened, I reached out to him, and he brushed me off and insulted me for asking him.
So yeah, Tucker Coburn resigned early this morning.
Region 8 LNC rep.
Region 8, yeah.
Yeah. Again, if there's anything that I've said so far to anybody who's new here or who's just part of the Adam versus the Man audience, who has never been involved with the LP, if any of this goes over your head because it's really basic shit, like, let me explain. LNC, Libertarian National Committee, that's the board of directors essentially of the party. It's the leadership of the party. There is a chair who is the figurehead, the title, the authority, the sovereign, if you will, although according to the bylaws, and as Nick Sarwark would have said, the least important person in the party. But the actual authority head of the party is the chair of the LNC. There's a vice chair, there's a secretary, who is Karen Ann Harless, who will be joining us today, and a treasurer. And then there are a group of board members elected to represent regions and at-large membership with. And I wonder why they don't do it by state. Why should the LNC could just be like, either every state affiliate gets to send one, but that's whatever. We're dealing with this whole dumb American political system where, like, by virtue of being a state, you get 2 senators. You're like, wait, what? Like, not proportional representation. Well, we have that in the other house, but then we screw it up with the Senate. Like, yeah. Anyway, enough ranting about the structure of the federal government.
A good point here.
I think the only reason to keep him on board is procedural at this point. I want to give him and the other board members benefit of the doubt, but damn, do they make it hard. Yeah, and like,
we tried too. We wanted to get, like, it seemed like there was something more to this when we first started hearing all this nonsense, but
it is not unfair to consider the most militarist confrontational analysis of what we're doing for a second. We're the Libertarian Party. We're not just another faction of politicians competing for a little share of the brass ring. We are saying that the whole system is corrupt and illegitimate, and calling out all of the injustices of the world that happen in the name of government. We are, insurgents, revolutionaries, whatever you want to call it. Like, we are the ones standing against the greatest source of injustice in the world today. As an opposing force here, there are going to be infiltrators. They're going to be spies. They're going to be saboteurs. They're going to do everything they can to stop us. At least commensurate with the market forces, motivating them, incentivizing them to perpetuate this government racket. It's a lot of fucking money when you add it up. And we're pointing out to the world and the victims, like, this is that. Make no mistake about it. That's who we are. This is what we're doing. We do have some important headlines to get to today. So with that, am I missing any notes on this debate? 20 minutes of sufficient rambling preface from your host today on this very cool segment. So yes, again, Karen Ann Harless, LP National Secretary, Angela McCardle. I believe she's still technically chair of LP Mises California as well. Just some significant, but she's trying to get away from that, right? As she's running for national chair to not be caucus driven as much as someone who can be a unifying chair. That's appropriate. But also maintain a well-established position for herself as chair of Los Angeles LP. And David Feit, who is a committeeman in New York and director of outreach for the Pragmatist Caucus, which is not an insignificant officer title to hold. It is a significant LP credentials as an activist. Yes, outreach director of the Prag Caucus. Although I will say, interesting news I found from Twitter this morning. Speaking of resignations, Pragmatist Caucus or Prag Caucus Chair Laura Ebke, who I'm a big fan of, consider at least a casual personal friend, former state senator in Nebraska, who is really one of our party heroes, having switched as an elected representative from Republican to Libertarian, is just resigned as chair of the Prag Caucus and declined the opportunity to debate in defense of I did invite her, and I don't want to say why or reveal her. I mean, I don't remember actually. She did decline the invite to defend JBH on this one as well. So 37 minutes. Any emails, Joey? Anybody want to do this? No?
No emails yet.
Very interesting.
I put it out on the old interwebs and
yeah, put it out on Twitter a couple times. Well, I should check. I'll check my inbox. Meanwhile, executive producer Jim Freedom.
Good morning. What's going on up there in Gardenia? It's going to be a very interesting day. I'm actually one of those people that I know enough because I've been doing the show with you, so I know more than I used to before I started with you about the LP lingo and everything like that. But it's going to be a very educational experience today because I'm still kind of confused about what exactly happened and what's the root cause of the people rallying to get this guy removed and everything.
So am I. Like I'm part of this debate. I mean, is going to be me asking questions. Why do you have this position? What is your, what are your facts? And doing a sort of like I suppose, Jim, I'm one or two steps ahead of you in the rumor mill right now, but I'm putting together these things and I haven't bothered to like dig in and be like, well, let me see the emails. Well, let me see the screenshots. And it's like, all right. I'm reserving judgment, until, but I feel like this core narrative that I laid out is the general understanding right now. But even that, I'm like, I can't, I think I caveated that pretty well to say, this is what it seems like to me so far. This is the story I'm hearing. I want to get the facts and the sources cited, and we will get to that today. Daniel Hayes, possible play. JBH resigns as senator. Ebke gets put up for LNC chair. Ooh! The infamous Daniel Hayes also joining us this morning for this special episode. Very excited to have you with us, sir. Daniel Hayes, long-time Libertarian Party activist out of Louisiana and organizer of National Convention. And just put in a lot of great time organizing events for the LP.
Would vice chair just step up though? Is that how this works?
It could be that we just vice chair. Well, it depends. Put up for there are a lot of different ways. I think we always move to suspend the rules and do whatever the fuck we want as the LNC. Rich Clark. I feel bad for the members of the LP that held elected office as part of the duopoly because they got sick of the circus, only to join our circus. We're supposed to be better. People like Amash and Ebke. Okay, Rich. No. They joined knowing what this was about. So when we're going into this and we got a black eye, they know that we didn't punch ourselves in the face. Like Justin Amash comes in here and goes, oh yeah, there's shit within the LP leadership. There are disputes. Like, no shit. He's not turned off by that. I mean, not any more so than in the Republican Party, and probably less so because here at least to fuck with us, they don't get to back it up with, oh yeah, and then we're going to start a war, or then we're going to, deprive your state of millions of dollars of federal funding. Like, no, we're not playing those games. But I think people like Laura Ebke and Justin Amash coming into the LP are way more tuned in than the average member of the LP as to the nature of political fuckery, because they've seen a worse side of it. So no, don't try to make me self-conscious with that bullshit. No, the LP has nothing to be ashamed of here. Of course, going into battle, we should be proud of our scars and our bruises.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. They've seen a lot more of the nasty that they know they need to oppose.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing here. So
all right, we have some fun comment contests. Let's get some producer notes.
Let's get to it. All right, producer notes. I just wanted to explain the difference. The t.me/Adam versus the man, that's a public Telegram channel. That's mostly for show notes, things about the show, talking about the show, updates on the show. So if you want to know everything that's going on with the show, that's where you'll find that. The private producers club that we talk a lot about is more of a conversation, an inside conversation with the people from Adam vs. Man. So it's a real cool thing to be a part of. If you want to just buy your way access to that, the $10 level on our Patreon is what gets you access to the private producers club. So definitely check that out and check out all the levels, see how you can take advantage of helping us out in that way. The Garden of Freedom is on Instagram. I'm sure you've seen it. Got plenty of pictures and videos of everything going up there in Gardenia. So check out Instagram at the Garden of Freedom. Great pictures and videos for you to love all day long. Make sure it's on your favorites. Thecrypto6.com. We had a guest on, Ian Freeman, yesterday who blew your mind with explaining everything that's going on there. We showed you that the link gives you the address to where you can write to the guys in cages here still. So definitely check out thecrypto6.com and click the links to donate to them and help them get their legal funding situation under control. Lastly, gogreenenergyonline.com, the best website for people that are thinking about going off grid, learning more about solar power, micro wind energy, zero energy homes. Gogreenenergyonline.com is the best website for do-it-yourselfers trying to get self-sustained. Get yourself educated. Have a beautiful day.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim. And also the Producers Club we call it the Producers Club because people there help put the show together. We do have a block of headlines. Now that we're 30 minutes into the show, we still got to get to the headlines. But yeah, a lot of them come. What's that?
We need a longer show.
Yeah. We have to go back to the 3-hour format, or we need to go back to talking faster and drinking tea during the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the co-host's chair today, keeping your comments coming on screen throughout the show, Ed Vallejo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Adam.
How you doing?
I'm libertarian from way back in the 2008 era, and I went over to Republican for Ron Paul, so I've been fighting other dragons. I'm just coming back in the LP and trying to figure out what's going on, getting the feel. I don't really know anything about the participants here other than what I've heard from the people that I've come in contact and just you and what I'm doing here. Okay. I don't know anybody from anybody, but what I do know is in 2008, when I watched the Party of Principle get torpedoed by a man named Barr and another man named Root. Okay, now you guys got this thing going on currently, and I'm looking at the players, and what's this guy's last name again?
Oh, Bishop-Henchman. Yes, it is.
Henchman.
One of those.
Okay. Now the henchman isn't being a very liberty-minded libertarian. Is that the gist of it?
I mean, let me ask you a question, Ed. If you became a libertarian and your last name was like Mussolini or Tyrant or Trump or fascism, like you would change your last name, right? At what point do you not have to change your last name?
Okay, well, my basic question, I get the basic questions pop in my mind. Was this person, I want to say, was this man, but somebody will jump on me because it might be not a man using a different, I don't know about genders nowadays or not. I want to be politically correct. Was this person born with the last name of Henchman? That's just a basic question of mine.
Now we're gender confused on anybody named Joe, because we had Joe Jorgensen, Joe Bishop-Henchman, how many other Joes? Then we have Joey. Then we have our Joey, Joie. Like, seriously, people, can we not be more creative with our names? Okay, enough dumb jokes about his last name. We are going to get to that. And Ed, I will say your role as co-host today and your perspective is very valuable. If there are questions you want asked, I'm going to call this not really a debate. I mean, I'm debating for myself what side of this I'm on. What should my role be in this? As a delegate, which way do I vote on this, maybe? There's this weird hangover where we, the delegates of the 2020 convention, are the ones who put this LNC in place, and might be called to vote again virtually at some, I don't know, in some suspension of the rules. Justin O'Donnell, I don't know whose name was pre-marriage, but JBH's husband is a deacon in a church. Their last name is Bishop-Henchman, and they are clergy and a lawyer. Now, this is sort of like the Nick Sarwark. He's a lawyer and a used car salesman, and his last name is Sarwark. Okay. Are they rubbing our faces in it? It's just bad COINTELPRO jokes. I want to take this issue seriously. I don't want to condemn before evidence is assessed here, but there's been enough evidence of squirrely shit and shit for, like, with Sarwark. So Bishop-Henchman, when I hear the henchman, I think of henchman to Sarwark.
Sinister minister is what my brain said. Ah! Bishop-Henchman.
Yeah, I mean, careers in law and religion are problematic, just like being, a used car salesman might be problematic. But I'll leave it at that. I don't want to cast aspersions when there's a serious accusation based on silly, superficial shit. And that's what this is. But what is serious is his conduct as chair. What transpired with this series of events around New Hampshire and Gilletta Jarvis recently. And, if or whether or not he should be removed of these calls. If nothing else, I hear Karen Ann saying this, and I go, well, we better have Karen Ann on the show. And I go, well, this is a serious enough topic. Let's get some more voices and challenge the evidence on the air and get some balanced opinion. So, Ed, if there are questions that you don't hear me asking, or commenters, and you want to write comments yourself, and we'll probably bring you up towards the end of this conversation on screen with our panel to make sure that, as someone who's coming in with the political background, but not the relevant immediate party background, if you're satisfied with our examination of the issue.
Right.
You know? So you also have a comment contest today.
Yeah. Yeah. Best LP joke. I haven't heard a good LP joke in a long time. Okay? Not necessarily a joke about the party, but, just a party-related joke, Like, I thought
the LP had nothing but bad jokes. We have good jokes too. Well, get your best good joke about the LP out. I kind of wanted to add I kind of want to piggyback on this one because I'm working on a comedy bit. Based on Jeff Foxworthy's "You Might Be a Redneck."
Yeah.
Yes. If you have a Blue Lives Matter sticker on your vehicle, you might be an NPC. If you pay as much in taxes as the government will let you, you might be an NPC. If you enthusiastically vote Democrat or Republican, you might be an NPC. If you were first in line to get a COVID vaccine, you might be an NPC. If you're more afraid of COVID than the police, you might be an NPC. If you've never heard of the non-aggression principle, you might be an NPC. So non-player character, NPC. I guess I should have explained that first for those of you. But Ed gets this term for being an OG video game player from two decades ago.
GTA.
When the term, when the term first became a thing, all the way to 10 years ago or so, we determined that NPC, non-player character, became a political term. And I think a very appropriate one of derision in contrast to the libertarian message, which includes be free. I mean, I'm a skinny libertarian as opposed to thick, as in libertarianism just means this. But I am thick in the implications, and the implications are live well, engage with the world as an individual consciousness with wants and hopes and desires to love and to serve and to create and enjoy. Don't be a fucking NPC. There you go. That's my rant. So Ed, just to get out of the way, the first part of our headline stack today, we do have a few interesting weather headlines because we are in the middle of a heat wave right now, and it's not just any old heat wave. For us here in Gardena, it's a little early, but it's also record-setting. Our first headline from AccuWeather: mercury soars to 125 at Death Valley amid scorching heat wave. Holy shit! And apparently this is 10 degrees from our global world all-time record. I'm like, whoa, that was 136, but no. Death Valley is the record holder for the highest air temperature ever recorded on Earth, a sizzling 134 degrees Fahrenheit in 1913.
I stayed around Death
It was
Valley
not a
this
very
winter.
good year.
I am thoroughly convinced that this is due to them using chemtrails pushing the jet stream north and creating a drought here in California, so we cannot produce food.
Hold on, we're going to get to that, Ed, but you're wearing a 1913 themed t-shirt today, aren't you?
Yes, I am. They call me Ed the Fed Ed. You know, I've been
All
I
right.
was Arizona State coordinator for Ed the Fed for years in a row.
I couldn't ignore that weird numerology coincidence to point out that 1913 was also the hottest ever air temperature recorded by humans on Earth, Death Valley, California. But so when we complain about this in Gardena, and here in Gardena, it does once or twice a year spike to around 105, and we go, holy crap. It's still nice at night. It was like last night, sleeping with just a fan.
Right.
Not even
Right.
no air conditioning. You can make it through the year here with well managed shade and fans and no air conditioning. And you can't do that in Phoenix, can you? Ed is from Phoenix, or sort of originally, right?
Yep.
It's consistently like 20 degrees warmer in Phoenix than Gardena.
If not more.
But this is like nothing to you, right?
Pretty much, no, it's warm, you know? But I grew up as a kid in Phoenix. My brother and I used to, on Saturday, we'd walk to Greyhound Park to the swap meet barefoot, you know? So it was no big deal to us.
We took the puppies out yesterday to run errands, Thelma and Louise, and they were having trouble walking on hot, dry mud, like, an adobe-ish surface, just in a little pond bed that had dried up, going, oh, 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 oh. See the puppies dance on the hot dirt was kind of fun. We had a gallon of milk explode being left sort of out yesterday. Another one, though, slightly different phenomenon. We'll bring it back to the drought.
My juice fermented in the heat.
Juice fermenting in the heat in Gardena. This is why we do food storage in an above ground root cellar.
It's a $200 fine in Phoenix if you take your animal on the trail, and possible jail time.
Wow. Well, appropriate. I mean, I hate to say, I hate to support any status law of that nature, but making people
you're creating a victim.
You are creating it is animal abuse.
Absolutely.
And something that people like, I'd like to think, Ed, that, and you see me around our giant cloud of fur babies here. I'm pretty tuned into animals, but even for me, like Joey and me, we're walking in flip flops. Dogs are barefoot, and I saw, hey, we parked in the blacktop, and we're like, we got to get the puppies to the dirt, like right away, but then they're still in the dirt, they're still uncomfortable. Yeah, and in Phoenix, just a packed dirt trail. You're not going to walk barefoot in the summer in Phoenix, and that would be animal abuse. Like I said, I hate that government is the mechanism of us dealing with that issue, but it's better that we're dealing with it than not, probably. And in Phoenix, there are a lot of dumb Babylonian statists there who have dogs who just moved there and moved into air conditioning. Oh, we're taking my dogs for a walk. I don't want you to have to deal with government, but I really don't want you to do that. All right, so hold on. Different weather phenomena now. We're going to bring it back. AccuWeather.com. Massive cloud of dust sweeps across Atlantic, heads toward U.S. Jim, can you get that satellite picture on screen? It's pretty stunning. I almost saved this for Good News Friday just to be like, look how cool it is that we can see this. Justin O'Donnell, I just wanted him to post more kitten pictures on Twitter. Well, hey, Justin, if you want the full collection of kitten pictures, it's Instagram at the Garden of Freedom. But no, Jim, pull up that satellite picture again, please. This is the wait, is that the satellite? That's like a computerized image. But even that we can see on that massive scale, we can step back and look at the Earth and go, yeah, there it is. There's the actual satellite image. That's a dust cloud from the Sahara. And you know, if I got to attach a label, environmentalist libertarian is not a bad one. But as a capitalist, it's that I want to see the value maximized, from natural resources. And if there's a chance that we can come together as a human family and go, this is a global resource, well, let's address this. Let's incentivize people voluntarily coming together to go, hey, maybe we should be terraforming the desert. And I'm not a conservationist. Conservationism is preserve it exactly as it is. No, like here in Gardenia, this is part of a maturing forest of junipers. It's beautiful to see. And, we go, well, hey, man, giant dust clouds blowing across the Atlantic from the Sahara is natural. We got to conserve the natural pattern. Hey, maybe we got to terraform this shit. Maybe we should be planting trees. Yeah. Maybe we should be irrigating. Maybe hemp. Maybe we'll grow paper in the desert with irrigation. 2 birds with 1 stone, kill the dust clouds and the deforestation issues. And anyway, to me, this is exciting, but it's also right now, this is a destructive weather phenomena. Newsweek with the next related headline, Florida set to have incredible orange skies as massive Saharan dust cloud approaches. Ooh, so there's a cool side effect, right? Now, finally, to bring it back to some good weather news for the droughts, weather.com, Gulf tropical system could drench one of America's most rain-fatigued regions. Tropical rain to bring Gulf Coast flood threat. And I go, God damn it, why do people still live in these places? But at least, yes, we are seeing some relief on the horizon. But Bloomberg at yahoo.com, next headline, California walking a tightrope as hydropower supply fades. And you go, God damn it, Newsom. God damn it, fucking California government manipulating the water supply and the droughts and all the Central Valley farmers and really a critical part of America's food supply. Fuck you, California government. Now walking tightrope. The wind farms, the manipulation, the alternative energy, really just, I can't say enough. Fuck the California government. Read the weather headlines. You will say it that much harder.
They're out of control.
Didn't we find out that California? Didn't we find out California had created tubes to where they were sucking water out of Lake Mead? I think that came up. Yeah.
I feel like I've heard this story before.
There's the manipulation of natural resources by the California state government, especially the water supply, is fucking criminal. And that they do this while looking at the rest of America and showing their citizens, oh, we're the friendly, liberal, environmentally conscious state government. Look at us. Keep electing Democrats in California. You go, really? You're the most corrupt motherfuckers there are. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that keeps you from being as bad as the Federal Reserve is that you're fucking farm league because you're state level instead of federal, but you're just as fucking evil. And really, California government, what is it, 7th largest economy in the world if it broke off. And I'm also a member of the Cal Exit Congress. I'm invited as a non-state resident by Chair Marcus Ruiz Evans to be a part of that effort to see California break off, because the evil of the state government of California is only empowered, exacerbated by the way that the federal government and the Federal Reserve makes it all possible. Lauren S. Arizona is still on fire too. Globe/Telegraph has been burning for like 13 days. Yeah, I don't know. Ed, do you want to speak to that in particular, having a little more knowledge of that area?
They're evacuating people out of there. There's a valley there that is just gonna get it. There's no 2 ways about it. They got to pull people out of there or they aren't going to make it. And when I was in Phoenix this last weekend, the sunsets were it was incredible. The red sun. I mean, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun was bright red.
Well,
Blood red.
I got to insert the
Eerie.
one snarky libertarian point of this is what you get for trusting government with fire safety. It's fucked. Like we'd be capable of so much better. Like, and it's sad. And you want to talk about wildfires in California over the last year too. That people in California, I mean, we use the term Babylonian like derogatorily here to be like, yeah, fucking Babylonians going into these California suburbs. Well, there's a paved road, there's utilities, government said it was safe. They've got a fire department that covers this area. And then, no, fucking wildfires, you're all evacuated and houses burned down. What's this? This is the Telegraph fire that Jim's got pulled up. That's Telegraph here in Arizona. And, you know, I don't want to say good or bad about this particular thing because it could be some wildfires are good. Some forests need them for regular turnover, but we could manage this
in
even
Colorado
so much better.
Colorado does it better than anybody in the country. They are always controlled burning.
See, I believe that.
Rarely something gets out of control.
And you're talking the state government of Colorado, but I believe what you say because the residents of Colorado are way more genuinely conscious than the residents of California, from my experience.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thoughtless Babylonians in California, way more proportion. Whereas in Colorado, you have a lot of people living rurally who go to Colorado to be connected to nature, who are conscientious of that, who, although they're statists and maybe Babylonians, they're at least going to demand a higher standard from their state government than in California and leave less room for fuckery in environmental resource management. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, having lived in Colorado for about 2 years, there's a certain sense of community and conscientiousness that doesn't really exist in mass like that.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a cool Colorado
really
culture
a statewide
thing.
thing. You know, it's not like pocketed. Well, except for Denver, they suck.
All right. We got to get to some serious headlines before our big debate feature of today's show. We talk about weather for 10 minutes. Fucking A. All right, Ed, the comment contest one more time, please.
Best LP joke.
Or if blank, you might be an NPC. All right. So, although I would say it's kind of
you might be an NPC.
All right. CBSNews.com, big headline. With moratorium ending, more than 8 million households face foreclosure or eviction. Even as the nation rebounds from the coronavirus pandemic, more than 2 million homeowners are behind on their mortgages and risk being forced out of their homes in a matter of weeks, the new Harvard University housing report warns. And I'm happy to say I got this one wrong on the timing. I thought this was going to happen soon, but I knew this was coming and that this was going to be.
I read this headline a few months ago. They're going to extend
an eviction crisis, and we've been covering. So I really thought that what happened was there was the forced unemployment crisis of March 2020, and then there was, oh shit, there might be an eviction crisis coming, and then there were all these policy machinations, government bullshit, moratoriums on evictions, assistance, and now that they're running out, you go, could they extend it forever? And I go, Adam, you should have known that they were going to extend it as long as they could get away with. Maybe now that the actual sort of intensity or the urgency of economic sacrifice to deal with the pandemic is fading, they're not able to maintain that momentum of their policies. So let's see. Most of the homeowners at risk of foreclosure are either low income or families of color, said researchers who published the 2021 State of the Nation's Housing Report. Congress has dedicated $10 billion to help homeowners get caught up on payments, but it's unclear if that funding will make it to families before mortgage companies begin sending out foreclosure notices. And one thing, because I've never had a mortgage, I'm not really familiar with what it's like from the inside. But apparently, you get a lot of leeway before they evict you, right? It's this weird system where they get you tied in. How long can you default or how many payments can you miss before? They'd rather you default and apply penalties and then evict you, because that means you have no equity in the house and they own it even more, right? That's part. Like, I'm not
I
saying,
think they just sell
I'm
your
not pointing
loan
out,
and
oh, look at this
refinance.
good thing I didn't know about, but then you own less of that. You keep what they want you to do is pay for the maintenance on a building that they own while paying rent on it and not actually building any equity. That's the fundamental incentive of the banks as mortgage loaners, right? Lenders. They want you to, I mean, come on, they don't want you to like get the best terms and own, like, now some, this is not to disparage individual loan officers or bank tellers or any of the, endpoint retail individuals you might deal with as your gateway to the machine that is the banking system and the these corporate entities. So be nice, and they'll like I told our our helpful friend with Verizon authorized retailer TCC yesterday. Hey, look, as long as you keep giving me confidence, you're working the machine best to my advantage, I'm not going to complain. But the machine, when it comes to the mortgage industry, is a much bigger and more vicious one. And I don't think you're going to see a sudden crashing of a wave of foreclosures, but you will see a foreclosure crisis. It will be identifiable as such. And there will be, surprise, surprise, further consolidation of wealth and power in the wake of COVID, right? All right, the Washington Free Beacon, we're going to really have to, there's a lot of fun setup in today's show. We got to run through some big headlines here. Washington Free Beacon, race-based bailouts and COVID stimulus bill face legal setbacks. And this is about the $1.9 trillion Coronavirus Relief Act that includes loan forgiveness earmarked for minority farm owners and entrepreneurs. And, I am as sympathetic as anyone to the plight of minorities here in the United States. So I'm not against necessarily reparations based on, it should be individual experiences rather than race experiences. And if it happens through some clumsy, whatever bullshit government thing, I'm not trying to take a position for or against that. I don't want government to have anything to do with this, obviously. But I love watching the snake eat its own tail, and the sort of logic unraveling where it's like, well, we're going to have special benefits for the military and for veterans. And well, then we have to have special benefits for the LGBT. And then we have to have special benefits for first responders and cops. And then we have to have special benefits for these minorities and this victim class and that victim class and this favored government class. And you go, really?
It's not going to work.
We're all citizens of the empire here. Can't we all just get along? Andrew Whitmer, you might be an NPC if you don't understand the irony of flying a thin blue line next to Gadsden flag. Yeah, there you go.
So
write
much
that down.
too.
And I write
So
this down on my list. If I'll reword that, but I like your point there. If you don't get the irony of a thin blue line next to a Gadsden flag, yeah, that's because that you see that
all the time.
Yeah,
I have had discussions with good friends of mine who, and they don't identify as libertarian, but when you talk to them, like they really, really are. But they don't get that. They don't understand.
Can we do the rest of the headlines in 5 minutes with no more sidebars? Probably not.
No.
Maybe should I turbocharge this with some COVID vitamins since it's Thursday? We didn't like formally stop for COVID vitamins. I'm probably going to need this before our panel. Apparently, our guest 2 of 3, and this again goes to the weirdness of the situation. Karen and Angela, both taking the remove JBH position, are backstage waiting, chomping at the bit here. Whereas David Feit is, although not necessarily having to be early, I kind of want to share a little bit of the private conversation between me and David Feit. The last thing he said is, "This is a super fucked situation," and I wrote back, "Super fucked how?" And he hasn't responded. That was yesterday at 10:46. I asked him at 6:08 a.m. this morning. Justin O'Donnell with an LP joke. I'm just happy that the LNC could agree that New Hampshire was a place. Yes. Okay. So that is funny. I got to explain that for the new people too, because it should be funny anyway. Like it's funny on multiple levels. But last year, the biggest debate on the LNC was for bylaws interpretation purposes and a virtual convention. Is the internet a place?
that argument was great. That one was fun. Oh, that whole thing made me drink last year a lot.
So, with great respect for our guests waiting backstage, I hope you don't mind me taking a few minutes to at least skim through the rest of these headlines while we wait for David Fite to join us and possibly anybody else. This is really last chance.
I got no
last
email.
chance. No email. Joey's checking her email.
I got no response.
We'll check again in 5 minutes. 5 minutes here.
Joey
Top of the hour on Showtime. We will check in at joey@thefreedomline.com. Really, anybody who's a credible Libertarian Party activist, any kind of, like, you could be a county bathroom coordinator for the Libertarian Party affiliate of, bumfuck Egypt County, whatever it is, I don't care. Really, anybody credible as an LP activist, someone who's been a candidate, you run a successful campaign as a Libertarian, I'll count that now. We're lowering the bar. Anybody wants to come on and defend JBH in this. Otherwise, it's just going to be it's not going to be much of a debate. But we'll see. All right, let's see. Yeah, okay, we got bios for them. All right, we're all ready for this. But CNBC.com and Drudge Report want you to think the big headline of the day is Obamacare survives after Supreme Court rejects latest Republican challenge, which, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of like just partisan back and forth. Of course, with how much tyranny this law is going to stand. Okay, some esoteric challenge, and the Supreme Court shot down the state of Texas because they didn't have standing to show that they were harmed by the law. And I'm just encouraged by this. Like, the federal government wants to shove Obamacare down everybody's throats. Well, welcome to the party, Texas independence movement. AmericanMilitaryNews.com, and this is the one I wanted to get into. We might have to come. I hate to say this. We might have to really come back to this one. Biden launches domestic terrorism strategy targeting anti-government ideology, white supremacy, and war. Yeah, there's no way I'm covering this on a skim. And then I covered this. I mentioned these headlines yesterday. Gateway pundit, Big Brother, Biden administration wants Americans to report radicalized friends and family to government. No, we're going to have to come back to that. But related story from the Associated Press, editors of Hong Kong newspaper arrested under security law. Not surprising, right? Hong Kong police used a sweeping national security law Thursday to arrest 5 editors and executives of a pro-democracy newspaper on charges of colluding with foreign powers. The first time the legislation has been used against the press, and yet another sign of intensifying crackdown by Chinese authorities in the city, long known for its freedoms. And if you're not following the bigger story, this is just part of Beijing, which is the reference for China's national government because it's the capital, taking over Hong Kong over the last year and a half. The coronavirus giving them the cover, greater ability to suppress dissent, to suppress protest, which have been masked in mass in the streets, despite Beijing's attempts to suppress that freedom under Hong Kong's one country, two systems concept, after having been an semi-independent autonomous territory under British rule for decades, being turned over. Now China saying, this was 1997 when the British colony of Hong Kong was handed over. It became an economic powerhouse because of relative economic freedom. Of course, its geographical location, port, trade, benefits made it possible. But now China goes, you can't do this. And the last year and a half has been brutal, literally. And this step, editors of Hong Kong newspaper arrested under security law, represents the Chinese government going, oh yeah, time to take over the press too. Yeah, if you don't toe the line. And so I'm hoping that there's going to be some, whiplash effect. That the people of Hong Kong, although a lot of them are just leaving, and this is like, do people stand and fight, or do a lot of the foreign nationals doing business in Hong Kong, are going, yeah, we don't know, we're not dealing with Beijing, we're out of here. But this might be a catalyst. I would hope, in my own activist fantasy world, that this would spur some true Hong Kong independence movement to action. That you can't even give a large central government like China's the benefit of the doubt here. Mirror.co.uk, inside Vladimir Putin's 390 million pound, that's not weight, that's British pounds, plane with gold-plated toilet as it arrives for Joe Biden talks. And I was thinking about this because I make this as a joke. This is like one of my favorite dad jokes. We were walking out of Home Depot yesterday, or was it earlier this week? And we'd been in and out because we were looking for a solar charge controller because someone else sent us there. And they didn't have the solar gear at Lowe's or Home Depot. And I was walking out, and this lady goes, that was a quick trip. You were all out of toilet seats made out of solid gold. We're going to Lowe's, And
she said they'll be in Monday.
Yeah, great dumb joke, and it's actually it's a Mike Myers reference. It's Austin Powers. Well, I wanted a toilet seat made out of solid gold, but some things just aren't in the cards, baby. Well, you could get a gold-plated toilet at least if you're Vladimir Putin. And you know why we hate these fuckers? Because the people who have access to these resources think that having a gold-plated toilet on an airplane is more important than using that money to serve their people. Even to be more in power, they care more about the appearance, the luxury, this kind of bullshit. Which is why the next headline from the Associated Press, I misread because it said, when I first saw this headline, I thought it was more than 30 politicians mutilated on Southern California coast. And I was like, really? And then I was like, more than 30 pelicans mutilated on Southern California coast. And that is a sad headline. Another big internet outage, CNN Business with this headline, airline and bank websites go down in another major internet failure. Yeah. Judicialwatch.org from our producers club. I think it was Ant sent us this one. Federal prison inmates escape undetected, deceived guards with dummies in bed. What? This is like Alcatraz shit with paper mache from when I was a kid. This still happens. Wow, we got a $4 super chat. Justin O'Donnell, super sticker. Thank you for joining us with that today. I think it's time to get into it. Ukrainian police arrest multiple Klopp ransomware gang suspects. That's happening. They want you to know they are fighting. Government is working to protect you. We still don't have David with us, apparently. Thank you to the patience of our other panelists, but it might just be me and Karen Ann and Angela this morning if David is back. I mean, the last I heard, like I said, this is really weird. This is really weird how this is happening. No David still, according to our executive producer Jim. The last I heard, I asked David Feit. So I said, well, I'll give you all the whole exchange here. I said, what is your position on the issue and what is your email for my booker? On the New Hampshire issue in general, I haven't picked a side, but when it comes to JBH, I support him and do not think he should resign. And I said, great, you're in. You'll get an email soon. Do you know anyone else who wants to defend JBH? He said, I'm asking around. This is a super fucked situation. Now, this is all happening very fast, so I want to be cautious to never blame anyone for inaction, although he did agree to come on the show. But the last thing he said is this is a super fucked situation. That was 10:46 p.m. last night. This morning, 6:08 a.m., I wrote, super fucked how, ? No response. Daniel Hayes, it's almost like the Prags coordinated to stay silent on this thing. Daniel, do you want to join us for this one? Daniel, you don't have to have a position or debate one way or another, but I think if it was you and Angela and Karen Ann, it would be a stronger panel, and I'd love to have you join us.
Andrew
Daniel
Olding in the comments.
AJ Olding, yes.
Yeah, he said that while he is not on the side of JJ.
Hold on. Andrew Olding, I see this. AJ, come on, dude. You should have reached out to Gilletta Jarvis. Already did. Already did. Now, Richard Manzo, as a defender of aviation, not as obvious, but if he's ready, have him on. If he's not, have him on next week if this is still a relevant topic. But if JBH resigns tomorrow, as per the rumor today, Justin O'Donnell just texted David. I don't have David Feit sell, so thank you for doing that. I'm gonna just double checking with my backstage here. No, David. Steve Remus thinks he can be objective enough to defend JBH if you want him to. He said, yeah. So let's see if we can get Steve and Daniel plugged in. So if you guys can email Jim at thefreedomline.com. Steve is already backstage because he's producer club. Yeah.
See?
All right,
Christopher
Daniel,
Club
if I
membership.
wasn't using my phone, wait, do I have Daniel on Telegram? Daniel Hayes, if you send me a message on Telegram, I'll send you the StreamYard link. This is very fun, very, very fun having live time. All right, couple quick headlines also to skim while we're waiting for that to come together. sfgate.com, fentanyl has changed the whole landscape. San Francisco faces worst drug epidemic ever. I thought the government made drugs illegal and people stopped doing them.
They're not supposed to have them.
They didn't have
They're
it.
illegal.
A physician, 2 nurses, a professional athlete, a drug dealer, and a lawyer who had nodded off in court. Teenagers, specifically a 14 and 15-year-old and a 7-year-old who got into a stash in her mother's purse. These are some of the types of people. Dr. Christopher Caldwell, the chief of emergency medicine at Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital, has recently seen in the emergency room for medical issues related to fentanyl use and overdoses. Caldwell said, quote, "That's just in the last couple of weeks. It's really remarkable because it runs the entire spectrum. This affects all walks of life, all folks. It's hard to overstate how impactful it can be to anyone who doesn't seem to care about race or background or gender or anything." Well, just like the vaccine. Everybody's doing it, so you should too. Get on fentanyl, kids. Duh. Government said it was safe because fentanyl was like approved for something. It's just now that it's being distributed illegally because government, whatever.
I have so many sidebars on this.
Yeah, I know. Lauren Aswain and Richard Longstreth would absolutely defend JBH, has been the whole time on public list. All right, good to know. If we don't have a true defender of JBH on the panel today, like I said, this is happening very fast. I made the decision in putting this together to favor expediency over perfection. We're not trying to do a perfect, Oxford rules debate on the thesis of this, petition to remove JBH. We're having a discussion to figure out from people whom I trust, how to look at this and maybe what the LP should do moving forward.
Do it.
Co-hosts, David didn't respond to either. So is Daniel going to join us? All right. From 9to5mac.com, interesting headline from Europe. UK competition watchdog investigating Apple and Google smartphone platform duopoly, as in the Play Store and the App Store, Apple, whatever, iOS, what do they call it? The App Store and the Google Play Store. The group will investigate dominance of iOS and Android in the control they wield over the App Store, Google Play Store, and Safari and Chrome. Not too hopeful, but interesting to see if a good shakeup comes out of this. Fun headline from Infowars.com video. Roger Waters tells little prick Zuckerberg to fuck off following request to use iconic Pink Floyd song for ad. I love this. Yeah, they wanted to use another Brick in the Wall Part 2 in an ad for Instagram. See, this is why I'm like, let's burn our Foo Fighters CDs and go buy some Pink Floyd vinyls. We do vinyls, yeah. Waters noted the deep irony of Facebook wanting to buy and use a song that rails against thought control and mindless conformity. Yeah, okay. CBS Chicago speed cameras churn out hundreds of thousands of tickets after rule change. Of course they did. If you live in Chicago, be watching out for that. I think that's it for any of our. We have some January 6th stuff we got into. Apparently, this from the New American. This is another one we're gonna have to come back to probably Monday, maybe next Tuesday, because Mental Health Monday. I don't want to talk about newly released government documents indicate FBI may have orchestrated January 6th insurrection. Yeah. But here's a quick one we can get out of the way from Daily News. Ghislaine Maxwell's jail cell flooded with raw sewage. It says, yeah, that's actually normal in American jails from my experience. But so much more to that story yet to come out because remember, Jeffrey Epstein didn't hang himself. All right, let's just go ahead and do this. Who do we have? I don't want to keep our guests waiting any longer. Ladies, thank you so much for your patience, for being early to today's show. So first, Jim, do we have anybody else join us now last minute? We have Steve. So we'll do Steve.
Justin O'Donnell says David misunderstood the time zone. Justin, if you're in contact with David, tell him it's not too late.
Not too late.
Not too
While
late.
we're doing the introductions.
Jim at the
Happy to get him
line.
and make the case today. But we're going to go ahead and kick this off with whoever we got here. So we have Steve Remus backstage. Let's get him on to start. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve, Arizona State activist who brought this to our attention Tuesday, co-host of Adam versus the Man. Steve, any other critical credentials you want to lay out for this?
I mean, I'm an active candidate for the Libertarian nominee for governor of Arizona. So, I've tried to remain as objective as possible in everything that has come out. So,
yeah, it's so you're relatively new to this in the party insider stuff, and you have an interesting stake in it as a candidate looking to put forth a major effort to serve the cause here in Arizona, and not wanting to, like, a lot of us are in a weird position where it's let's just not piss anybody off, right? Let's not be factionalist, and we want to get along with everybody. We want to work with everybody while knowing there are people in our ranks who are infiltrators, who are saboteurs, who don't have the best interests of the party or the cause in mind. So thank you for joining us and bringing this to our attention originally on Tuesday. And Ed, of course, who is off screen still, but will be keeping comments coming, representing the audience and the perspective of a lot of people with a similar new to the inside baseball perspective. So up next, Angela McCardle currently chairs the Libertarian Party of LA County. That's Los Angeles. And serves on the executive committee of the LP of California. She is a two-time congressional candidate for California's 34th district, has worked in litigation for over 10 years with a focus on property rights and constitutional law. Angela, thank you for your patience and for joining us on short notice this morning. Anything else you want to lay out for credentials today?
Well, I'm running for chair of the national party, so, there's that, but
that's more like an important disclosure at this point, but thank you, because I did forget that. I meant to include in your introduction that you have announced and are looking to run for chair. And so you're looking at this possibly with an eye to there being some midterm shakeup even before the 22 convention and election.
I guess. I mean, I'm kind of looking at this as though it's tragic and unnecessary. And why is the chair of the national party putting us all through this, but especially the people of New Hampshire?
So fair to say that your position would be cut him out, do the removal as quickly as possible, get it done and move on?
Yeah, I don't like to call for people's heads. I think that it's counterproductive, it's inflammatory, and it's frustrating. But I'm not really sure, where do you go from this point where you've got at least 8 state parties who are saying that they don't want to participate in the CRM project, which the vice chair of the party has worked really hard on to get everyone on board and have access to the resources of national. So much faith has been lost in the national party across the country. That really sucks. And what is like a big elephant in the room that no one ever talks about is that the chair doesn't keep his own officers apprised of what's going on. And that's, I chair a really large affiliate. We've got around 250 active members in it. It's larger than most states.
Hold on. Excuse me, Angela, for just a second. I want to address this. I want to, like I said earlier, the super chat. We're gonna put it on screen because it's a super chat. You want to trash talk anybody on the show for money? Our platform is for sale, obviously. But JBH favors mandatory vaccination. Is that true? I don't believe that. Is that somewhere that's got to be a joke? Because I mean. Citation, please. I want to stay away, like making fun of his name or the superficial shit about his partner.
I wouldn't doubt that being true.
But I wanted to. I'm kind of like Steve and I are going to be. I think we're the ones defending JVH in this conversation, at least as sort of devil's advocate, neutral. David is trying to get in.
Up right now.
Okay, we might get David back here. All right. Well, without further ado. With all due respect to everybody else involved in this conversation, let's bring on our heavyweight. Ladies and gentlemen, Karen Ann Harlos, someone who is incredibly respected for her long-term commitment to the party, her work, her character, her integrity. She is 2-term national secretary of the LNC and secretary of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and whatever her official head of the National Historical.
It was
effort.
too much.
So many titles, format. She's also a Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah.
But titles,
yeah.
formalities,
whatever. Yeah.
So she's got a collection of those. Karen Ann, I mean, the two big ones, two-term national secretary of the LNC. Anything else you want to include for credentials here, dear?
No, I'm not into it. You know that.
All right. Well, I mean, I almost don't know where to start. We have David who's trying to join us. We might have Daniel Hayes, and I'll say to the audience, we're not being formal debate style. I'm not going to try to make this a debate.
Panel.
This is more panel talk. Adam moderates a conversation. We want to hear people advocating from all perspectives, and if someone wants to join us, definitely David is invited. Excuse me, David Fight's still welcome to join us. And Daniel Hayes would be also very well. Daniel Hayes has the link in the email. Oh, and David is backstage. All right, so let's get David on here. It might get a little crowded, but we're going to make sure that every perspective has a chance to say their piece. David Fight is a New York State committeeman, which is an official government position, I believe, that he holds on behalf of the New York State Libertarian Party, and is the outreach coordinator for the Libertarian Pragmatic Caucus. David, I apologize if there's any confusion on the timing. Greatly appreciate your flexibility in joining us, and I think for joining us in the spirit of this as a conversation. David, do you have any other credentials you'd like? Thank you. Do you have any other credentials you'd like to include with your introduction?
No, you got it. I'm a New York State committee member, and I just actually the outreach director for the Pride Caucus is a new thing. So this is a fun first couple of weeks as a national official for the Pride Caucus.
Yeah. Welcome to the party. Let's jump knee deep in the shit, shall we? All right. Yeah. This is not a pleasant situation. This is not a good thing. This is not something we're like. I mean, there are certainly people, who have their factional motivations who are smiling about this, going, now my people get to take over, enjoying the potential for a shakeup. But overall, those of us who care about the party certainly say this is unfortunate. Let's deal with this. Let's have a mature conversation. So on that note, let's turn to the lady with the funny hat and the pink hair to lay out the facts. So Karen Ann, if you would please, the facts and just the facts, if we can handle the truth. How did we get to this point where there's significant call and a petition for JBH to resign?
They did a whole 2-hour thing on this, so it's hard to do this in a brief form. So, and brevity is obviously going to lose some very important things, but let me try to do this as briefly as possible. Apparently, JBH had been aware, as he says, for months. I think he probably exaggerated that a bit because the convention was only in March, but I guess that could have been months. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt on that maybe he meant like a month or so of some kind of coming split, but that it wasn't for certain. And that's why he didn't bother telling the LNC about it. Though I would think a split in the state party, even if it was just a rumor, you should be telling your officers about it. Part of the problem in this party, and it's not just with JBH, it's with his predecessor as well, is there's no officers. The chair is functionally a king. And that is not what the delegates think they're voting for. But besides that, so not breathing a word to the officers or the rest of the LNC, but I'm even just trying to make it as broad as possible. And we just met, what was it? Last weekend. God, it's a lot has happened. And New Hampshire was one of the topics, and he still didn't breathe a word to one of the officers. And then on Monday, apparently, he was asked to author a certain letter for Gilletta. I informally interviewed Gilletta, and if you listen to that interview, it is not quite as stark as that. That according to Gilletta, they had been in discussions about what she might do for a little bit. So this wasn't just call him on Monday. I'm going to ask you for this letter without any context, because everyone goes, oh, the letter on its own isn't anything. The letter on its own doesn't exist on its own. It exists in a background context that either you were too completely dense to figure out what was going on, in which case you should not be chairing a national party, or you were complicit, in which case you should not be chairing a national party. There is no spin on this that makes JBH look good. And he did nothing afterwards to remediate it. So he wrote this letter to Gilletta Jarvis, who was the then chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, basically just affirming that the sky was blue, saying you are the chair of the only affiliate that we recognize in New Hampshire, which again, on its face is the sky is blue. Nothing controversial, right? Yep. But why? Like, why have asked that? If someone's going to ask me to write a sky is blue letter, I'm going to ask specifically why. And he says he didn't even ask why, that he had a guess in his head. Now, he sort of contradicts himself, because at one point he says it's because she thought she might have issues getting control of the social media accounts. But then he later says he didn't know why. He guessed it was because of the social media accounts. Well, I'm sorry. If you think there's some big split coming and the chair all of a sudden wants some kind of official letter from you, you don't ask why.
Okay, Karen Ann, before we get to how this plays out, can you step back and cover the social media side of this narrative? Because I've heard that was something important, that there were, racy edgelord type messages going out, because Mises members came in and at the last convention swept all the state officer positions except and infamously also smacked down Sarwark by having Noda beat him for the treasurer's race, right?
Listen, I want to say something about that. I don't like seeing anybody noted. That is absolutely humiliating, and I don't like seeing anybody humiliated. He kind of stuck his foot. It is just, it doesn't mean I have to like it. But sure. He put himself into that position. It isn't, but I still feel bad.
So Karen, if I may just sidebar explain for the people who don't know, it is a libertarian, usually bylaw entrenched tradition that in every election we have none of the above on the ballot. And that means that we always have the option of leaving a position unfilled. Noda is none of the above. So it means that we'd rather say leave this position vacant than elect any of these people up there. So it's a rejection of people volunteering. And that was why it was such a major smackdown to the point there. So, no, I know. I'm just this for people in my audience. Justin O'Donnell weighing in here. I believe at least one member of the new group has been conspiring this contingency for at least a few years because he was unhappy with radicals in charge back then. Okay, so Karen, back to your narrative, please, from this letter from JPH.
But you wanted to know about this social media thing first, I thought.
Please.
Okay. There were some spicy hot takes coming out of New Hampshire. I don't really want to get into it that much until we start talking about whether they violated the statement of principles or something of that extent, because what New Hampshire tweets is none of the National Party's business. It just isn't. The National Party has only one option when it comes to an affiliate that is offending its sensibilities, and that is to disaffiliate them. They otherwise cannot interfere in the autonomy of an affiliate. So I think that will become more relevant later, but I think we can all admit there were some spicy pepes, if we want to use but they didn't actually use a pepe, but, just to be funny. So, so he wrote this letter and now claims he didn't even ask what it was for, which I don't believe in a second, because he's not stupid. But no matter which way you spin it, it's incompetence or conspiracy. And then that Saturday, so he did the letter on Monday. During that week, Gilletta used that letter to busily start creating a new party, or what was going to be the new party, a new organization that was also called the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. And JBH claims he doesn't really claim he didn't know she was doing that. He's never claimed that. He just claims, well, I wasn't a co-conspirator. that wasn't the original. I didn't even think of that word till he said it. That actually isn't, and I realize I used that a little bit here earlier, and I'm going to withdraw from that because that's probably stronger than I can prove. But an accomplice in some way, or, you know, a witness in some way, that knew what was going on, because it's very, very difficult for me to believe that whole week he did not know she was doing all of that. And she says he knows. And she said she was going to do the right thing and just resign. She was a chair who couldn't control her board. Obviously, they couldn't work together. They outnumbered her. She had her resignation letter already written. And then someone whom she refuses to name, who I do not believe is JBH, by the way, came to her and said, there's another way. Oh, yeah, the coup way. Okay. For her to just unilaterally remove her board. And here's what's weird. JBH says she told him they constructively resigned. She said she never said any such thing, and that she never considered them to have resigned, that she still considers them officers of the older party. And when I asked her, well, wouldn't that make you still an officer of the older party? When I interviewed her on that Saturday, I think the 12th, she stopped for a minute because I don't think she ever even considered that, and said, well, I guess I am. So she's now the officer of two libertarian parties of New Hampshire, but that really didn't occur to her till I pointed that out. Mm-hmm. And so she's using this letter. Then on Saturday, she announces, this is before I talked to her, her new organization, and points to this letter as blessing from the National Party. JBH never repudiated ever that she was wrong in her belief about that letter. He said everything but that. He could have nipped this on the bud on Sunday and said, I have sympathies for what's going on there. He could have still even did his motion to disaffiliate. But if he did not intend his letter to be used that way, he was incumbent upon him to immediately repudiate it. I love the example Dave Smith gave, where he said if he gave Robbie the Fire Bernstein a letter one day that says, you are the legitimate co-host of Part of the Problem, and then the next day Robbie went out and started a new show called Part of the Program and started using that letter as proof that he had Dave's blessing to do it, and Dave said nothing for a week, you're either utterly incompetent or you did agree. Neither of them qualify you to continue to be chair. You've completely lost the faith and trust of your board. You can no longer lead this party.
Well, for the record, Karen Ann Harlos is hereby officially a co-host of Adam versus the Man. Now, the other thing, I think an element of the story.
Start a new one.
Please do.
Give it to YouTube to take over your channel.
All right. Hey, you know what? Actually, I this is so weird. I just got a text message from Gilletta right now, and I think I can read these on the. She's texting me while I'm on the air live, so I might as well.
Awesome.
She says, okay, I will tell you 2 dates. I reached out to JBH on May 21 to ask him for help on how to deal with the situation in New Hampshire. He did not get back to me. A third party got the letter for me, so I cannot speak to what JBH specifically knew or didn't know. I was not part of that discussion. On June 12, he reached out to me after everything had been done. She's referring to JBH, I think, here.
No.
On
Who's
June 12th,
the third party?
Oh, maybe third party. Yeah, where she says he here, it could be the third. If Gillette, if you're watching, you, by the way, easier if you telegram me, I can read it from my laptop on the air.
This is the thing.
Hold on, let me finish reading this. No. On June 12th, he reached out to me after everything had been done and asked me what was going on and told me what he'd heard already, some of what there's more to this. Oh, geez. Sorry, calmer on the topic than yesterday. So, I want to make sure. Oh, maybe. I just want to make sure first that the narrative is complete. So if we can focus on that, Karen Ann, what of the narrative do you feel needs to be added to get us up to today?
Well, there's something I want to put out here that I put out all the time. Gilletta is a friend of mine. I hope she still considers me a friend of hers, even though we are on opposite sides here. I think she's a wonderful lady. I think she's being used, and I implore her to reveal who this person is that told her there is another way. It's that same third party, I'm sure, that got that letter. Now, JBH, because it was never under question until right now, who got that letter, I think I need to hunt through some voices and some things. I think he claims that Gilletta herself asked him, but I don't have the receipts here. I'm going by memory and I could be wrong, but Gilletta's being set up for the fall and my heart bleeds for her because she's not a bad person. I want to know who the puppet master is. Not saying she's a puppet. I'm using that word kind of hyperbolically, but who is this third party? Because that's who's instigating it here. And maybe JBH is taking a fall too that he shouldn't, though I don't think so. I really don't. But there's another person at fault here who is instigating all of this and causing all of this.
It's really interesting that you say it that way.
I lost you, Adam.
There he is.
And now it's my connection. All right.
You're back.
Yeah, sorry about that. While I'm trying to get this text message from. This is really crazy happening live time. Okay, Daniel is with us. Let's get Daniel up on stage. But what I want to do here is go around the panel real quick and just give everybody no interpretations, no judgments. What else do you feel needs to be said for this narrative to feel complete, Angela?
Yeah, I'm sitting at the Florida convention, and Michael Heiss comes up to me and says, "Big news," shows me what's going on, and he has to be the one to break the news to Ken Molman and Karen Ann Harlows. That's a real problem, to not even have the other officers in the party know what the heck's going on, and to be sending these kind of letters and dealing with affiliates on grave matters without keeping the other people who have the, authority to make these sort of decisions in the know. So I think that's really important to note. There's a major problem at National when the chair doesn't communicate with who's supposed to be his right-hand man and the secretary.
Okay. David, anything just on the narrative? I think you got yourself muted there.
I'm muted. There you go. I definitely agree with what Karen Ann just said, that there seems to be a puppet master behind this that's put up a few people for unnecessary falls. Honestly, I mean, I'm on here in the defense of JBH, but I'm not going to defend everything that happened there, and I'm definitely not going to defend anything that happened in New Hampshire. I think that was completely egregious. But as far as just what happened goes, I think that there was a lot more conversations online and between people that didn't know what was going on than, to Angela's point, then there was conversations between the people that did know what was going on. Misinformation spread extremely fast, and it took days for me to just even attempt to have a grasp on the situation and the actual true narrative.
So it's interesting to note that very few people have stepped up to defend JBH in this. And like I said, I want to get a clear understanding of the narrative first, and then we'll come back to David to make the case for him not resigning despite whatever you think he's responsible for in this. And it is, I do want to play devil's advocate.
Adam, there's more. Like, I didn't give the whole thing, and I'm glad you let Angela and other people come in because I don't want to monopolize the conversation. But there's more.
So
well, let me go to Steve next here. Steve, do you feel that this narrative is complete? What do you need to add, or do you want to ask questions of the other panelists?
So I want to call out some key points here. Okay, so the first important thing to note is we have a he said, she said scenario between JBH and Gilletta. We also have a letter that we now know was a third-party request and resource, which may have been used or created to usurp JBH and Gilletta. Now, there's some assumptions made to who might be behind the letter. The important thing here to note is if there is a third party and a so-called puppet master, the understanding is if what in New Hampshire was so serious that the chair noticed or was somehow brought in by a puppet master, then how did no one else in New Hampshire reach out? That is my question. Right. Who else at that level knew that didn't speak up for themselves?
Yeah. So there's an important benefit of the doubt angle there for JBH for us to consider, that maybe he's being manipulated and he's just playing what he thinks of as his role as, I got to stay neutral, and who knows, and then Karen, prove me wrong. This is me being skeptic and wanting to be really, do we have to remove the chair? Come on, is this
Adam, come on. Okay, listen.
Hold on. Don't worry, Karen Ann. We still got. You know what? I'm going to tell you guys on this panel, just so everybody knows that they're going to have their piece heard. We're not going to cut the show at 10 a.m. in 23 minutes. I will at least give everyone here a full 5-minute closing statement if you want. So if you want to make notes, anything that you feel is left out of this, I respect you all. I want you all to feel heard in this. Rich Clark weighing in for $4.99 super chat. Much of the misinfo spread due to JBH taking his own sweet time to officially respond. Yeah, so it's hard to avoid. If this narrative all holds true, it certainly seems unavoidable to the charges of incompetence. I believe Daniel Hayes is back again, maybe having connection issues. If we can get him up while I'm reading this text I've got from Gilletta now. I got the whole thing. Okay, I will tell you 2 dates. I reached out to JBH on May 21 to ask him for help on how to deal with the situation in New Hampshire. He did not get back to me. A third party got the letter for me, so I cannot speak to what JBH specifically knew or didn't know. I was not part of that discussion. On June 12, he reached out to me after everything had been done and asked me what was going on and told me what he'd heard already. Some of what he'd heard was in his statement regarding his conversation with me, but were not things I had said. I don't know who gave him the other information, but now those things are being attributed to me incorrectly. There's nothing more I can say about what he did or did not know. So yeah, it definitely seems like Gilletta is being manipulated and set up, but I think I would want from her a statement a little more decisive as well. And maybe she's afraid of some legal culpability with funds or equipment being moved. And I can certainly give her the benefit of the doubt on that for now. And I appreciate her, Gillette, if you're listening, I appreciate you sending this to me during the show right now. Daniel Hayes joins us. Daniel, you've been introduced and credentialed as longtime Louisiana LP activist and organizer of conventions extraordinaire. Do you have anything you want to weigh in on the narrative first, or your position on this?
I want to see the dog.
He's not available.
Daniel, you're up.
But anyhow, sorry, Karen. Can y'all hear me? Anyway, okay, so I'll use my noted loud voice. Can you hear me now? There we go. Okay, so
gotcha.
Some things that a lot of people have been talking about. I think there's some attempts at 6-level chess going on here. 6-level chess, right? Who's the 6-level chess players? I don't know who that might be. Some people have been extraordinarily silent in a state they live in, maybe. I don't know. But something, in like Karen Ann, I'm something of a parliamentarian, been the state treasurer of my unit of the National Association of Parliamentarians, whatever. I run around with that formerly big brown book, and now I got a digital version of the 12th. But anyway, some people run around and they say, well, we just need to take the assets away from both sides. Well, I don't think there's really much of a question as to what entity is and should be in control. They had a convention. People were elected there. That's the entity that should have whatever assets, etc., restored to them. Who's on that board? That was decided largely at that convention, so that shouldn't be in question. The fact that JBH can't go there, can't get to that particular point, that credentials were given to the chair who went off and admittedly on that video Karen Ann did with her and with other LNC members, many of them in tow. It's been admitted. The old entity still exists. This is a new entity. Well, the bylaws are clear. There can only be one. There can only be one, and there was already an existing affiliate. So until such time as that affiliate was disaffiliated, you cannot have another entity come in. So, giving JBH the benefit of the doubt, and by the way, for disclosure, I think all caucuses of these factional sorts suck. And if anybody remembers, I'm the guy that Mises Caucus accused of kicking Ron Paul out of the party. So keep that in mind. But, so in JBH's defense, he is putting up a motion to disaffiliate. The party only has power to affiliate or disaffiliate since that entity exists, and they don't have the actual power to reaffiliate or affirm. That's not really in the powers of the LNC, but they can disaffiliate, and it takes a 3/4 vote. The chance of that passing are really slim. So it could potentially be argued that he's taking the only legal motion he can by this attempt to disaffiliate to clear the matter up. Can be argued that way. So, it's, as everybody said, it's a total freaking mess. But there's some things that are really clear, and people are basically towing their partisan lines of their caucuses instead of looking at the basic, indisputable facts that a convention was had, that people were elected at that convention, and that convention was put on by the long-term affiliate, so therefore that entity should be in control and given whatever benefits the National Party provides to affiliates. And if they're such bad boys, then there should be official proceedings to disaffiliate, not in email. Frankly, that's something that shouldn't be done in email. That's where the disaffiliation motion is, which is why I think there's maybe some credence that this is just kind of a rubber stamp to say, okay, here's official action that we can take as to who the affiliate is. Anyway, I'll shut up.
All right. Well, thank you, Daniel. Speaking of caucuses, Angela apparently is rescheduling something so she can stay with us. David, back to you on this. In terms of this, the crux of this being JBH responsible for the doing the disaffiliation on his own. How do you stand? What is your take on that specific charge? It seems like that's the bit. I mean, there's a lot of little ones. There's stuff around this. There's incompetence. There's that poor handling, and I think even defending JBH, you would admit to plenty of that. But the crux of the critical charge here is that he unilaterally basically disenfranchised the officer corps of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire in order for Gilletta, who was chair already, to be chair of a new one and basically get rid of her whole board and repopulate it with people that she wanted and who knows who else wanted. David?
So I don't remember who said it earlier, but somebody said that we've got a pretty bad he said, she said case going on right now. And when that happens, it's very difficult to actually get to the bottom of it. You're reading off the text from Gilletta that disagree with other things that we've heard, and there have been a lot of that going on. I saw the comment earlier from one of your viewers that JBH is taking his sweet time. Definitely contributed to that misinformation, and I'll agree there. From what I saw and what I conversed with him and some of the people around him at the very beginning of this was, he was attempting to take the principled National Party stance of like trying to stay out of it for a minute and see what happened. And I saw a lot more calls for his resignation before I saw anything from him. So I mean, there were people all over the place in the Twitter sphere and on Facebook and in email threads, and I've seen some of the emails, and I'm sure Karen Ann, you've like to show some of those screenshots, and those are always fun, of the emails that you guys get at the LNC.
Yeah.
There was a decisive push that I saw to put JBH into this situation while he was trying to stay out of it. Now, whether or not he actually was behind the scenes doing the things that people are telling him to do, or telling other people to do things, that's still part of the he said, she said.
Why was the rest of the board not informed, though?
That is a good question. I can't answer that question. If I was him, David, that would have been the case.
So, David, is it fair to say that even taking the position as much as possible in defense of JBH in this situation, that this would call for a convening of the Judicial Committee or the LNC to examine it, and that if he doesn't explain stuff, if he doesn't answer some of these basic questions, that he should be held to account both for the secrecy element of it, and then that if this is the intervention, that there should be some judgment on this, and that if it was decided that this is what happened and he's given that due process, that he should resign or be removed.
Yeah, I think Dan said that about the drawing party lines. I'm not going to do that here, and I've seen that a lot in this situation. Yes, I am part of the same caucus that JBH is, but he's not my Donald Trump. He's not somebody that I'm just going to defend every action of unilaterally, and because I'm defending him as a person doesn't mean that I'm defending his actions. Definitely doesn't mean that I'm defending Giletta's actions. It does very, very much doesn't mean that I ever defended Nick Sarwark's actions. They like to get lumped together a lot, which drives me nuts. So yeah, I mean, if we find out that he's in the wrong here, if the Judicial Committee does their job and he isn't able to explain himself, and the LNC decides that they no longer want him as the chair, that's how political parties work, 100%. Then he should be removed. If he's able to explain himself and we're able to get down to the facts, or it's still just a really murky he said, she said, then I think it's a lot less clear of a call. And I think that JBH has done enough work as the chair and is continuing to do enough work as the chair that this situation is not enough. Just the murkiness and the bullshit of this situation isn't enough for me to want to see him leave.
So, but it should be examined and resolved as quickly
100%.
as possible. And if JBH doesn't participate in that openly and enthusiastically to regain your confidence there, that would cause you to flip on this and say he should be removed, right?
Yeah,
something like yeah. I mean, it's somewhat subjective.
I also would respect his decision to resign, not out of guilt, but out of just
avoiding the conflict.
Avoiding the clusterfuck.
Whether there's any ill intent or criminal intent or what have you, that it might be the right thing for him to do. That to say, hey, I'm sorry, I created a mess that I'm responsible for and affiliated with in an unavoidable way, and I should resign to avoid it. That might be the right thing. So thank you for pointing that out. So let's get divisive for a minute here. Let's talk about caucuses that Daniel hates. So Angela, we're going to Mises here. And
yeah, but remember to come back to me, Adam, because you said you would let me finish, and you never let me finish.
Oh, okay. We want to finish the narrative. Well, let's get the Mises part of the narrative, and then we'll let Karen Ann round that out before we get to everybody's judgments and opinions and analyses. So my disclosure on Mises is that I'm one of the original Facebook.
Oh, and the chair just threatened to sue me, by the way, over this. He just threatened to sue me for defamation, and I said, go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Well, and the chair of the party is threatening to sue one of his officers for questioning him. Let that sink in.
Can you read us so this is text message, Karen Ann? Can you read us?
It's on the business list. I'll read you the whole thing. This is outrageous. Okay. So during here, I put in a title. I just learned that letter was not given by JBH to Gilletta, which might have been a little imprecise, but I then went on to say, who was the third party who procured the letter? Okay. And Joshua said something, and I said, well, I'm asking the chair. And he said, false. I emailed it directly to Ms. Jarvis, which does not appear to be what she said, but there could be a little wiggle room there. Any member of this board spreading further false claims about my integrity or actions, be on notice that you may face personal liability for defamation. Using the assets of the organization to disseminate false claims, which he's done about me, by the way, too, also places the organization's legal position in jeopardy, and members should be more circumspect in their assertions and statements under authority of their position. I asked him a simple question. I made no accusations. I asked him a question, and I said, you are a public figure, and this information was just stated publicly by Ms. Jarvis on a recording. There is zero liability for defamation when there is good faith questioning. And are you seriously threatening to sue an officer for investigating you? Go ahead. And let me be precise. She did not ask you for the letter. Another obtained it. That does not preclude you emailing it to her. She says that she didn't ask you for it or talk to you about it, contrary to your statements. Unreal. He's trying to bully me through legal actions into shutting up. No, thank you. Not today, Satan.
Yeah, no, Karen Ann, I thank you for, I mean, this is really interesting how this is playing out in real time right now. Thank you for your patience, everybody else. That was absolutely worthwhile.
But now there's more. You know, that just happened, but the rest I wanted to say earlier.
Yeah, Karen, I want to point out that would be enough for me to ask a Libertarian National Chair to resign right there. Threatening legal action for, like, there's not, nobody is, if some, like, the only way that's remotely appropriate is if someone else is going, like, accusing him of crimes outside of these appropriate channels and trying to get the police called on him, because this is like the equivalent of him going, I'm going to call the police when there's no justification, or being the first one at a poker game to pull out a pistol. Like, this is absolutely fucking inappropriate because nothing you are doing, anything I've heard anybody doing questioning JBH or even accusing him, even the actual accusations are all in the realm of performance as chair. Professional lane, appropriate conversations, appropriate criticisms. No one is trying to get the government involved or called into JBH. For him to turn around and call the government or threaten to call the government that directly as to threaten legal action for defamation against Karen Ann Harlos or anybody else on the LNC for anything I've heard so far, to me, I would say, and I would understand if I got beaten on this vote, but I would demand the LNC determined that that's what was happening. He wasn't under duress at the time. He's responsible for it. He should be removed just for that. Karen Ann, anything else immediate you have to report?
Yeah, no, I do. There's other things I wanted to finish on that first statement. And remember that Gilletta, when she got this letter, now she might not have gotten this impression directly from JBH, though, sometimes you skip steps when you're talking to people, like, you skip intermediate steps. She told me in the interview that she was under the understanding that this letter was a transfer of affiliation. That doesn't mean JBH told it to her. It could be this third party, but that's how it was communicated, and that's how she used it. She's really being set up here. Gilletta, you're my friend. Please give up the name and save yourself. But besides...
Yeah, Karen, and I was coming to the same conclusion that someone is, well, you can't. I would say Gilletta is in the position to spill the beans from the middle and really resolve this. I think to a lot of people.
She's being used. She's being used badly, and I know people will yell at me and say, "Oh, she is responsible for your own actions." But people can whisper in your ear and get you. I don't even want, but she needs to not take the fall for something that somebody else is instigating for their own benefit.
Absolutely. And for Gilletta, when she watches this, I would say I share that sentiment, and I empathize with the fact that you may be under some other duress that you're not able to share with us at this point.
Yeah. maybe she's afraid of something. There's been threats going on here.
Yeah.
So maybe she's
Yeah.
afraid. I don't know. But she did consider that a transfer of affiliation, and now everyone, it's like they gave her the grenade with the pin already pulled, and now everyone's running away from the blast radius and leaving her. And that's not right. But what I was going to go on to say about why the chair should resign before he even started threatening to sue me is in his subsequent conversations, he made it clear that he is at war with other libertarians. Angela put this quote up in chat before, but I'm going to see if I could find it. It says right here, the reality is that our party faces a binary choice between two very different visions and some very different mutually exclusive principles. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph because that sums it up well. He has basically says, there are two different parties going on here, and their principles are mutually exclusive. I don't feel that way. If he feels that way, he's actually saying certain people do not belong in this party and that they need to go. And you cannot be a chair and say shit like that.
Yeah.
He needs to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Okay,
in
yeah,
general,
we need to get
though,
Angela
one of the big problems
a
we have
chance
with
to
these
weigh in
caucuses-
here. So, Angela, hold on. I want to give
One of these
Angela
problems
the
they have with
floor
these
for a few
caucuses
minutes.
is all the purge mentality.
I keep getting cut off. I'd love to get a point in.
Daniel,
I'm done up.
Angela, that one, Angela.
Thanks. One of the things that's so frustrating about this, and I think that David's going to feel me on this, is, one of the things that JBH said in his letter is that there's an element in the party, a large element, that is trying to destroy the party. And the optics of that, well, that on its face is pretty rude. The optics of it is that, half of us are evil, that we want to hurt the party, that it doesn't matter all the growth we've made, that it doesn't matter that a lot of us have worked really hard to build bridges with people in the radical caucus especially, but also in the pragmatist caucus, and people who are not in caucuses, and people who are, single issue minded. I don't understand how you can chair a national movement when you think half the people in your party are evil. I think that that's a really bad take. And I'd love to hear from anyone else who thinks otherwise. But I got to tell you, as someone who works my ass off to get along with everyone who's reasonable, I can't control people who hate my guts, right? But to get along with other people who are reasonable and want to advance the cause of liberty, I'm not really sure, what place do I have in a party where the person who's heading it up thinks that I'm evil? That really sucks. And if I were to get elected and call half the party a bunch of blue-pilled cucks, people would be rightfully calling for my head. And so I think we're just seeing the reverse of this right now, and it's really poor leadership. And I just don't know how we recover from this. So I'm curious to hear some thoughts on that.
Okay, no, that's a great segue. I wanted to get to that next. What would we like to see happen as a way of addressing this? And David touched on it with if we could get this, just that we want this examined, that there's no way around this. But I would go to Karen Ann again, and then to Daniel to answer that question specifically. Procedurally, what do you want to happen next?
And sorry, all of a sudden now there's an accusation that 9 messages were deleted from the LNC list. I didn't delete anything.
That was that comment with Justin O'Donnell tipping you off on screen there.
Yeah,
wow.
I have no idea what that's about. I deleted nothing. So
I'm hoping if you got to stop. Hey, Karen Ann, if you got to stop and take screenshots, take screenshots.
No, that's okay. It'll be in everybody's email boxes. I think Ms. Epke is confused.
Okay.
I think she's confused. I don't think there's anything going on. But I was like, what? And now I'm being accused of deleting emails. Great. Now, she wasn't accusing me. That was uncharitable. Now I'm being asked if I deleted emails. I do have that power, so it's completely fair for her to ask me. That was uncharitable to say accusation. But I think she's confused, and I deleted nothing. I've never deleted things. I offered this morning when a minor's contact information. Tucker accidentally leaked it to the LNC list. I was in bed. I wasn't near a computer. So I said I would have deleted that if I were by a computer, but I wasn't. And staff did that. But staff can delete emails too. I deleted nothing I don't think I've ever deleted an email from the email list in the 4 years I've been secretary. But I do have that power. But I can't delete from people's personal email boxes. They still exist there. So procedurally, what I'd like to see done, I'm going to say something that's going to seem like a criticism against the LNC, but it's not. It's just a criticism against boards in general. They never or very rarely remove anybody. It's just human nature. They just don't do it. I would love to see a motion to remove him pass. I don't think there's the 3/4 vote, but I do think there is more than a majority, which means that he should, in good faith, resign because he's lost the faith of more than a majority of the board that he needs to have in order to do his job. So procedurally, I wish he would just make it easy and resign. But if he doesn't resign, I believe we do have the votes and the support for a motion to censure with a resolution at the end of it with the people voting for the censure asking him to resign. That would be pretty powerful to be on the record, but that's really all that can be done. I think the right thing for him to do is just simply resign and spare everyone this. And he doesn't need to admit any kind of guilt or fault.
You basically go straight to an LNC vote on.
Yes, but I would rather he just resign, and I don't think anyone's looking for a pound of flesh that would make him in his resignation admit to anything.
If that's how it happens, and he either resigns or is removed with a simple vote, what happens next? I don't exactly know, to be honest with you. What I think would happen is that the LNC vice chair would serve as chair until the LNC elected a new chair, because we fill our own vacancies. I don't think he automatically becomes vice chair. I've got to look into that. So there's two possibilities. Either the vice chair automatically becomes chair and then we fill the vacant vice chair, or the vice chair temporarily serves as chair and we fill the vacant chair. It's only one of those two things. Gotcha. Okay. And Daniel, did you have thoughts on the procedure or how you'd want to see this addressed?
What Karen was just talking about, the latter is the way it works for the LNC. I was actually looking at the bylaws this morning. The vice chair would fill in, but in the case of the LNC, the vice chair does not automatically become the permanent chair. So the LNC fills vacancies, and I'm not sure if what the status of the online meetings are that the LNC has, if they're considered regular meetings or special meetings. But if they're special meetings, your special meeting has to be focused on the reason the meeting's called for. So, there would probably be some delay, and there probably should be some delay before someone was put in as a permanent chair, so that the members could consider the options, that being the members of the LNC. The regional reps could hear from their constituencies as to how they want them to vote, and that needs to go on. I know there has been one resignation already, with the Region 8 rep has stepped down, and I'm not in Region 8. But I would encourage the state chairs and whoever it is, as per their regional agreement, that appoints their new regional rep. I'd like them to consider someone, quote unquote, nonpartisan with one of these caucuses, because the caucus wars are getting really silly. The national bylaws say that the party is supposed to stay separate and distinct from all other political parties and movements. And, I think there's these other caucuses are getting into being other movements beyond, the Libertarian Party. And so people need to keep that in mind, at least the spirit of that particular bylaw as they're moving forward.
All right. Well, that's a perfect segue. I want to go back to Angela on that, because there is an elephant in the room here of the Mises Caucus, of which I am one of the founding Facebook group when that was all there was members, having then been kicked out of that. Feeling like the prodigal son in California with the wonderful time we had with Mises there. I've enjoyed watching various exploits of the Mises Caucus organization around the New England area recently. So, Northeast, it's all New England to me. I'm Southwest. Fuck all that cold Northeast part of the country. Miserable people and miserable weather. But aside from that, yeah, LP, we love regional shit talking here. So like I don't get to do the military thing anymore, so this is my substitute. But no, Mises clearly had a role in what happened in New Hampshire. You've been involved, and some people are saying that you need to get away from that to be a unifier for chair. Can you at least, I know, feel free to give us both of those points. What is your relationship? How do you see the role of the Mises Caucus? But also, what is your take on Mises' involvement in this episode leading up to New Hampshire specifically?
Okay, what's my role and what's my take? Well, my role is I'm on the National Mises Caucus board, and I chair the California Mises Caucus. We're our own PAC, and I'm one of the California organizers. So I'm very involved, and I'm very committed. And I understand there are other people who think you shouldn't be in a caucus when you're in a position of national leadership. I totally get it. It would be completely disingenuous of me if I were to say, "Oh, I quit it all." That would be. I'm an honest, transparent person, so it is what it is. I'm probably not going to be chairing it or being on a board anymore because I don't think legally I could do that if I were to get elected. So that's where where I stand on that. I think it's possible to be unifying without quitting a caucus if you're willing to actually work with other people. And the people who think that I am a racist, fascist, Nazi, transphobe, long list of insults, they're not going to work with me if I just say, "Oh, I quit the Mises Caucus." That's not going to happen. And I don't believe that any of those insults are genuine. So, you can be unified. Now, regarding New Hampshire, yeah, absolutely. The Mises Caucus played a role in the New Hampshire board. They did not actually control every single seat, though. And I think that that's getting confused in the optics of this situation. And, Jeremy Kauffman, the guy who made the controversial tweets, is in the Mises Caucus Facebook group, which does not actually equate actual membership or that we have any control over what he does. He's just someone that many Mises Caucus people had previously been, friends and allies with. And that relationship is obviously undergoing a lot of turmoil right now. And I don't know whether or not the guys in New Hampshire have disavowed him or if they're just like, chill out. But have we been trying to tone it down and rein that in? Yeah, absolutely. You think I'm really happy about seeing the Arvin 2.0 try to, get associated with my chair race? Ugh, no. And to whatever extent we can clean that up, and exert, some friendly pressure from the national level, absolutely we're going to do that. But I'm not going to be someone who's like a dictator tyrant who tells an affiliate, you can do this or you can't do that, and if you don't, you're just ruining my life. That's not appropriate either. You got to have a lighter touch with those sort of things. So everyone who's screaming on the internet right now for me to just do something, like, I'm not going to do something unilaterally, same as JBH shouldn't have sent that letter out unilaterally. What we do need to do in the Mises Caucus, though, is use better judgment with who we give the keys to with social media, which is a big thing, for me, because I think messaging is really important, and I don't want to jump from one end of the spectrum to the opposite end where we've gone from watered down milquetoast boring messaging to just shit posting edgelord stuff. There's got to be a happy medium, and I hope that people will work with me on that in the caucus and out.
So one more thing I want to ask for your take on specifically in this, Angela, is the significance of Mises almost sweeping the New Hampshire Libertarian Party officer elections and sort of choosing to get behind Gilletta rather than put up a competitor, but rather just focus on everything else and have the majority of the board. why is that important to the Mises Caucus, and why do some people see this as a hostile takeover?
I imagine that they chose not to run someone against Gilletta for the same reason that I didn't comb the roster looking for someone to run against Mimi Robeson in California. If you don't have someone qualified to do the position, you should not run them. There are positions that you can train people for. I train a lot of people on Robert's Rules of Order and how to participate in executive committee meetings, how to take minutes, all kinds of things, right? But it's completely different training someone how to chair an affiliate. And so I just recommend that people proceed with caution on chair and on treasurer. And I imagine that the New Hampshire guys probably felt the same way. And, it's not my intention, and it's not the intention of anyone else that I respect in the Mises Caucus to literally run everyone out. It's that we think that we need better leadership and messaging. It's not to purge people from the LP. There's honestly 2 or 3 people I would really like to see leave. Same as with everyone. But half the party or everyone who's a Prague caucus person or caucus list, like, come on, that's ridiculous. I don't want that. Neither does Michael Heiss. Neither does the Mises Caucus board. And I don't have control over what, some shit posting edgelords who are in our Facebook group say occasionally. Like, I can't like rein in every person on the internet. What an absurd thought. Those are my thoughts.
All right,
on that.
let's give David a minute to respond here as a rep of the Prague caucus. And before you do, I do want to say that there is a destructive dynamic in the divisiveness among caucuses, and it's nice to note that Angela and David are personal friends and represent, I think, the best of what's possible here, where they provide gateways for people into the party who have certain concerns that they want voiced or represented, or activism that they want prioritized. And I think that's great, and that they're able to talk and have this conversation. So the divisiveness is often a very artificial, stupid one based on false understandings of the ideology and misinterpretations, whereas we all want to pull together to achieve a voluntary society because we have all checked the box by becoming members of the Libertarian Party, avowing that we condemn any acts of force or aggression or violence in pursuing political goals, and that we want to see nothing less than a world set free in our lifetime, what I would call the voluntary society described in the party's statement of principles that we all champion. Andrew AJ Olding, also New Hampshire State LP activist, with a $2 super chat weighing in. Justin O'Donnell for LPNH chair. I love this. Adam versus the Man is now the ultimate advertising platform for future internal campaigns, right? Okay.
It might be too late. I don't know if you want to keep going on this, but Elijah Gizarelli just said he would argue on behalf of JBH if you guys wanted, we wanted him to come on. He thought he just saw the post.
Okay, tomorrow. You know what? We'll have some follow-up interviews on this. Depending, yes, I would also be extremely curious as to Elijah's take on this, but it'll have to wait till next week. Adam versus the Man. Friday tomorrow, we're still doing good news, cutting edge, happy, positive stuff. It's amazing. We got UFOs. Yeah, I'm gonna tease tomorrow's show. We got puppies. We got kittens. We got space exploration. We got all sorts of high tech shit. It's like we got COVID vitamins, smokable form, all sorts of fun stuff that we do every Friday on this show. But David, I want to give you what I want to do is give David a chance to say his piece on what's been covered so far. Then a quick round of possible rebuttals, and then go to closing arguments before we go too much longer on this. So, David.
All right. So first thing I wanna address, because I agree with everything that Dan said about caucuses. I hate them. I was caucus unaffiliated up until early in the year. I joined the Pride Caucus because I had a long conversation with multiple members of the board that they weren't going to partake in this ideological bullshit and this civil war, and that all that they were going to focus on was winning elections. When I joined the caucus, there was some people in the caucus that didn't want me there because I was at the time friends with multiple people in the Macy's caucus and very friendly with Dave Smith and very friendly with Angela and a couple other people. I had actually just had Angela on the show maybe like 2 weeks prior to me joining the caucus. But the people on the board wanted me there because they wanted to end this civil war. They did, or not end it, just not partake in it. They didn't want anything to do with this. That's the only reason that I joined that specific caucus and still stayed out of the other ones that I could join. I mean, I ideologically agree with both the Mises and the radicals almost 100%. I could be a part of them, but I didn't want to be a part of an ideological caucus. I want to respond first to something Angela said this last time she talked. You said that you would work with everybody except for the ones that hate you. And I feel like JBH is probably in a similar situation. From the second he got the endorsement of the former chair, who he was running against, he wasn't some handpicked successor. He was running against the former chair and then got that endorsement. He has been getting death threats and libel and slander and bullshit piled up from a large wing of the party, claiming that he doesn't do anything, that he, you already used the term blue-pilled cuck. I know sarcastically, but I've heard that describing him since the day he got elected. And then there was a race against him within a few months before he was even able to actually hire his staff and perform the job of chair for a few days. There was already a concerted race against him for his seat. And there was a large faction of the party championing that, and not in the nice way that Angela has been conducting her race, but in the destructive tear down mentality of JBH is a piece of shit that doesn't belong as chair, long before any of this started. So I don't like the fact that he got drawn into this caucus divide. I have had multiple conversations with him and other people on his staff trying to talk them out of getting dragged into this, because it's hard. It's hard to stay out of it when there's one group of people that loudly hate you and another group of people that loudly support you. It's difficult to not put on a team jersey. And I respect
Tell me about it.
right. And I respect his ability to actually try to stay out of it for a decent chunk of it. And it's been a little over a year now of him being chair, and he's tried to keep his hands clean from what I've seen. And sometimes that's pissed me off, and other times that's made me respect him more than I respect myself. To what Dan said about the Region 8 rep, that actually makes me really sad, because I'm in Region 8. And Tucker Coburn is one of my best friends in the party, and I respect him a lot. And I also consider him to be one of the best people at just putting his head down, doing the work, and not being a part of this bullshit. And I think that that's a problem that the Pride Caucus has when it comes to optics, is that the majority of the people in our caucus that are out there doing the work aren't on social media, aren't defending themselves. The narrative is set around our caucus by keyboard warriors, and we don't have many of them in the caucus. We have like 3, and one of them I despise with a burning passion. And so it's very difficult for us to even defend ourselves when we're just outnumbered like 200-1. And I'm not even being hyperbolic, because that's when I get into these arguments on Twitter, that's about the number that it seems like.
Stop arguing with sock puppets.
Right.
But let's get this on the record. David Fight, you're the bomb. You're just the bomb, okay?
Thank you.
You've been such a good sport in this whole thing, and I love you.
I love you too.
Despite what I said earlier, I'd give David my endorsement from it as an outsider, maybe, to fill that seat, because, I'd say stay away from caucus people, but he seems like he's, willing to not just always toe that partisan line.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I gotta address one thing you said there, David, that I would refute as a point in JBH's defense, where you said he wasn't a handpicked successor because Sarwark was running against him.
He was.
Until he dropped out. Do you really? You're backing that up, Karen Ann? That wasn't all staged, because I've seen, and I was there. I watched enough of those meetings with Sarwark's squirrely shit where I go, if
will.
you get his endorsement, I'm probably not voting for you.
Okay, I predicted JBH running for chair a year before he did because I saw Sarwark grooming him. And I can point you to the email list where I publicly said this. He is a groomed successor. No, or that, or I'm a fucking prophet. And I'm not a prophet.
Yeah, right.
God has not anointed me.
So no, I want to underscore one other thing you said, David. That like we all catch a lot of shit, and as Ernie Hancock would say, nothing on the internet is real. Don't feed the trolls, or at least don't let them get under your skin.
Saying that, don't you, Daniel? You were on the LNC when I said that.
I don't specifically remember it though.
Okay.
But
all right,
throw one thing in there real quick.
All right.
People that play 6-level chess, JBH may be a pulling too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of multi-layered manipulation, and never forget that we are up against the old parties, not just the whole government racket and establishment, but directly against the old parties that have multi-$100 million annual budgets, and they are going to use it to infiltrate, to deceive, to sabotage, to have trolls in our audiences, in our comment sections, in our Facebook groups, on Twitter. And even with all of this, I have to wonder if the whole thing isn't a distraction, because right now it feels like the whole Libertarian Party is watching this spectacle because it deserves to be watched. What's the other hand doing? Who knows? There could be some other whole layer to this that we don't even see right now while we're paying attention to this. Super chat, free men die free for $20. The Caucus of I goes back to a decade from the Sarwark faction attacking Ron Paul era libertarians and disenfranchising them for a decade. Most of us know Sarwark took the LP hard left, and LP messaging reflects that. Interesting historical insight there. Thank you for that.
I love how Sarwark took the party hard left, but also gets shit on for running a Republican for president at the same time.
A leftist Republican for president. Bill Weld is barely a Republican. Well, I don't know what the fuck. He's a snake.
I am going to intervene as moderator here to keep this on topic and get everybody out at a reasonable time. So we're gonna go to closing statements now. That's it. No more interaction. Closing statements. Everybody, please respect the last words. I'll go to Steve first, because Steve, I assume you have the least to say. Are you happy with how this has gone? Are there any big gaps for you still in this conversation?
So I think the main thing here is there's still, outside of the new relevant information that was emailed threatening to sue LNC board members, prior to that, a lot of this situation is assumption based, is circumstantial, and is he said, she said. We're assuming that JBH knew the intent of a mystery third party, right? We don't know that. Unless that gets disclosed, we're not going to know that. Now, the best path forward, regardless, because of the delay of him resolving the situation, is probably for him to resign and not drag this out any further. That being said, I took this on at the last minute to try and help David fight out. I am a Mises member, right? So for me, remaining as objective as possible, I've been following the public email for the last almost week now, and circumstantially, I think the evidence is is based on a lot of assumptions. There are just things we don't know, and unless Gilletta or JBH feel compelled to sort of testify to a judiciary or XCOM board, we aren't going to know. And it's best if the situation is resolved as quick as possible. And I think, unfortunately for JBH, he may have done some good things for the party, but at this point, he has harmed the party's reputation down through many state affiliates. I know as a candidate, I distrust the LNC right now. And that is indicative of just the assumptions being made and the way the circumstantial evidence looks. So I would vote that he just takes the initiative and resigns.
All right, thank you. Daniel?
So, one thing I want to point out that I just remembered um, about JBH and a probable unintended consequence of this whole situation. A lot of people have lost faith in the CRM. And that's something that I've been very supportive of. My last action on the LNC was to fully fund the CRM, and then that money got spent on other things, but I digress. But jump to 2019, January in DC at that meeting, and that's the first time where JBH, this is before he was chair, but JBH, or I might be mixing up my timeline as far as the year, but JBH was out there working to kill the CRM. And this whole thing, he may have gotten what he wanted. I think the CRM is a very positive project for the party. It's something that helps the and provides a solution. That's one of the biggest issues that state affiliates have. That's being data solutions. And it's not perfect, but it's an ongoing and growing thing. And as it's improved, now all this faith has been eroded in it, and it may have killed the project. I hope it doesn't, and I hope it still continues. And I'd encourage people to take whatever actions need to be done to protect themselves and their data with their affiliate, and keep the CRM going, because that's one of the main things that side wanted. It's a very divisive thing. Anytime you get into discipline, the results are never good. And so I know people are saying JH needs to resign. That probably might be the best thing that can happen, but there's the devil, and it's just not a good situation.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for always striving to redirect our attention to the important work, Daniel. I appreciate that about your
Activism's where we need to focus, and everybody's not bad, no matter what
All
box
right.
they're in.
Angela still with us? I know she has to go pretty soon here. I don't want to. Oh, we lost Angela for her last word. All right. Well, then we're gonna go. We're gonna go to David and then Karen Ann to wrap this up.
All right. So I'm glad Steve reminded me of something real quick that I was gonna say to your comments earlier, Adam. The threatening of legal action, that was something that I saw aimed at JBH from the very beginning of this. There was talk of, quote, being held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. I've seen that in dozens and dozens of tweets right from the get-go, based on at both Gilletta and JBH. So he's definitely, I don't like the who started it kind of mentality, but he definitely was not the first person to start talking about legal action in this situation. That was very much the other side. And to Dan's point there, I'm disheartened to hear that JBH was trying to kill the CRM, because everything that I've seen from the Pragmatist Caucus and his entire staff is working diligently to try to help Ken Mollman with this and roll it out. And I've been trying to help get as much support behind there as I can. And I've just started talking to Ken about it a couple weeks ago. I've been working with Tyler Smith. Sorry, Karen Ann. And trying
Why would I care about that?
Trying to figure out how to make this better and push it further. So the Prague side of this, I couldn't see any realistic reason why anyone would be fighting the CRM. That's one of my baby projects too. I like it a lot. But as far as, I'll just go back to what I said in the beginning. I think that JBH has done a lot of really good work, and that this is a clusterfuck that he got thrown into, and it's unfortunate. And if it turns out that there isn't a way to heal this with him still as chair, then I would respect his decision to leave. But I would like to see someone like him continue as chair, because he has been, in my mind, the best chair we've ever had. He's the only chair that's actually tried to push this party into legitimacy from what I've seen. And I would like to see him continue that work.
Thank you very much, David. Apparently, Angela's back with us. I want to make sure Karen Ann gets the very last word today. So, Angela, this floor is yours for a closing statement as long as you need.
I'll be pretty brief. I think that some serious damage has been done at the national level. everybody's talked about the CRM. That project has been greatly damaged. The fact that the chair hasn't worked with his officers or kept them in the know on anything for the entire time that he's been elected, 11 months at this point, is damaging. And now we've seen how far reaching that divide really is. It's not good for our culture. You know, he thinks that half the party is destructive and evil. That's not good for LP culture. I don't like witch hunts, and I don't want to say anything nasty about him. I think he's probably a very nice person outside of this political drama. But I think that the only way to like kind of heal the party and move forward is probably for him to resign. And I think Ken Molman would probably make a great interim chair, and I'd support that.
Excellent. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for joining us today, Angela. All right, Karen Ann, the last word.
Okay.
Words, paragraphs, essays.
Well, I'll try to keep it.
Here.
So to say that because JBH had been threatened by people defending New Hampshire who have had things stolen from them is equivalent to him threatening to sue an officer for asking him questions in an investigation I am supposed to be doing. Come on. I don't even think he barely said that with a straight face. There's no way. Okay. And also he did the sorry, Karen. And me and Tyler are good friends. We will be running a very friendly campaign. So there's never anybody who ever has to apologize like that. I think that made me very uncomfortable. And I think that would make Tyler very uncomfortable to hear that as well, because we don't have that kind of adversarial relationship. As far as JBH being the best chair ever, I know people could be really surprised at me saying this, but Nick in his first 2 terms was the best chair this party had ever had.
And then in his third, the worst.
And his third, the worst. Well, maybe not now. JBH said, "Hold my beer." And prior to Nick, Steve Dosbach was the best chair. So maybe Steve Dosbach was the best chair ever because he never ruined his legacy the way Nick did. Nick burned brightly and then fell like Satan from heaven. But even before this big debacle, JBH wasn't the best chair. He completely froze out his officers. He wouldn't answer my emails. You wonder how I had to get JBH to answer emails lately, at least, because in the beginning, things were okay, was to copy other people in order to shame him into answering. And that should not be the way it is. And Ken Molman, I don't want to speak for him. He could say that I misunderstood him. I'm going to say what I understand is that he treats Ken Molman the same way. I've seen him treat Ken Molman with absolute disrespect, does not treat him as his vice chair. And as far as supporting the CRM, what a slap in the face was it that he didn't even appoint Ken Molman to the IT committee, or IS committee it's called now. People don't notice this kind of stuff. I noticed this kind of stuff. And Ken Molman certainly noticed the slap in the face that he got. No, he's not the best chair, but he is excellent at some things. He is a great manager. I will give him that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Like the detailed, plans he puts out, you know, his chairs, I forgot what he called it, but like his detailed, whatever, he had a really nice name for it too that I'm forgetting. Excellent. Like a lot of that stuff was really, really excellent.
Does he do snowflakes like Donald Rumsfeld? Was it that kind of thing?
Oh, I don't know. He's a great manager. and I'll give him that. And he did have some good ideas, but he purposely froze out the officers he didn't want. He never wanted me, and he never wanted Ken Molman. And he treated Richard Longstreth as if Richard was his vice chair. And I bet that was very uncomfortable for Richard because he's friends with Ken. And it certainly was humiliating for Ken. So no, he is nowhere near the best chair we had. Nick and Steve Dosbach were.
All right. Well, Karen Ann, what would you like to see if JBH does not resign?
I would like to see the LNC have the balls to remove him.
All right.
But they don't. Well, and it's not a slam on the LNC. Bodies are just like that.
Yeah. No, well, it I mean, I geek out on all the, well, how do we structurally organize to prevent this in the future? And to some degree, it's not possible. But I would like to see the LNC composed of 50 state reps, maybe, instead of the way it is now. Maybe give it a larger body, maybe that strength and decentralization
It would
and more
be
connection to the
worse.
membership. You think that'd be
Let me
worse?
tell
I'll
you.
take your word for it. And Karen Ann, we'll have to schedule another interview in the next couple weeks after this shakes out. We'll follow up with you, and then you and me can geek out on all of our reorganizational
Certainly.
LP, LNC ideas. All right, one last super chat. Jeremy K. Oh,
No,
what was that?
just
All
somebody
right.
wants me to resign. Too bad. So sad.
All right. Oh, what is that? Oh, yeah. Oh, you
Kind
better
of money.
throw down. You better give me a lot
$2?
more than $2 to broadcast that message here, sir. All right, Karen
$2?
Ann, $2.
No,
We
you
just
have a
we put
bad
on a
opinion.
super
You're a fucking cheapskate. $2?
Yep. All right, Karen Ann. Anything you want to promote other than lp.org, which I would also say lp.org/free membership. But
Listen, don't
anything you
let
want to
this
promote to sign
kind of
off?
drama. No, I want to do lp.org and membership. Don't let this current drama dissuade you. I've had so many people go, "Oh my God, you're no better than the two parties." Yeah, we are, because you will not see, whether you like me or not, you will not see the LNC of the DNC and the RNC spilling the beans.
This
You know,
conversation doesn't exist in those circles. Not even
right.
close.
So this is actually healthy. And if you want to see this party be re-radicalized for libertarian ideas, now is the time to get involved, because shit's going down.
Yep. Amen. Thank you very much, Karen Ann Harlows, LNC Secretary, ladies and gentlemen. And that concludes our panel, our debate, our epic debate on the issue of the resignation of the national chair of the Libertarian Party. And it gives me no pleasure to say this, but I have to say where I am on this issue, that JBH, if you're listening, you should resign or address these accusations and all these charges with immediate full transparency. And I would say to the LNC that if he does not do one of those two things, or his explanation is not satisfactory, this should be brought to an immediate board vote to verify the facts and see where people stand and make something happen, because this situation cannot be allowed to continue for the sake of the Libertarian Party and the cause of freedom for humanity, for America, for everything, for all of us, for the future, for everything that we fight for all the reasons that we became libertarians in the first place. And with that, for those of you who are new to Adam versus the Man, yeah, we do have this much fun and then some, 5 days a week, 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday.
Good News Friday tomorrow.
Good News Friday is coming up tomorrow.
Refreshing.
We'll give Jim one last chance to close out with producer notes here, even though we're way over time. Jim, thank you for hanging with us today. Unplanned. I think it was worth it. Jim, you want to mention our promos real quick? Are you happy with that conversation? You happy to have stayed late, worked late for that one today?
Yeah, no worries. That was worth staying late for. It was a great conversation. Because we were going long, I was sitting there with my finger ready on the close button. I forgot all about promotion. So we can knock that out real quick. T.me/Adam vs. the Man is the public Telegram channel. Feel free to join that. Everyone's welcome. We love it. Be a part of the show notes and everything else that goes on there. Patreon.com/Adam vs. the Man is where you can go to support the show for $1, $5, $10, or even $50 a month. You can get access to, for $10 a month, you can get access to the Private Producers Club, which will get you 15% off, free shipping, all kinds of other cool stuff. CigarFederation.com, I forgot about. You can use promo code Adam10 to get 10% off the entire order there. Instagram has @theGardenOfFreedom. That's the handle that you search for to find all the pictures and videos of everything going up there in Gardenia. TheCrypto6.com. Visit that website to help donate and learn more about the Bitcoin church that was raided up in New Hampshire. And GoGreenEnergyOnline.com, the best website for do-it-yourselfers looking to learn more about solar and micro wind energy, etc. Have a good day.
And according to goodnewsnetwork.org, on this day in history, 1944, Iceland declared independence from Denmark and became a republic. So happy birthday to the Republic of Iceland. Mwah. Peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.